passengers per year won't go above 1 million because they lose everything. So now you have a vital piece of infrastructure that is artificially restrained by the government.
Almost half of the population are visiting their local pharmacy every week. A recent survey of over 2,000 people by the IPU found 51% visited a pharmacy in the last 7 days, 88% in the past month. It comes as Irish Pharmacy Union members step up their campaign for increased payments, saying the amount they're paid for work done on behalf of the state hasn't increased for 16 years. Donegal pharmacist Tom Murray is the IPU president.
Pharmacies will be required to invest in more staff so we can provide more services, and we want to do more to alleviate pressure in other areas in the healthcare sector in Ireland. That requires that we will have to address the 16-year pay freeze that exists in pharmacy. We are ready and willing to do more, but we do require, in support of the Minister's vision through the task force, that he would support the pharmacy sector.
There's a plan to further speed up the processing of international protection applications. From today, cases from the top 2 countries of origin with the highest number of applicants will be prioritised. With more, here's Cliona O'Dwyer.
There were 881 international protection applications from Jordan in the second quarter of this year, making it the country with the second highest volume of applications. Applicants from this country will now be processed on an accelerated basis. This builds on April, which saw citizens of the country with the highest number of people in the previous quarter, Nigeria, being prioritised and its processing being sped up. Nigeria has seen a 53% drop in applications since processing was fast-tracked. The Justice Minister, Helen McEntee, says the International Protection Office will prioritise cases from the top 2 countries of origin with the highest number of applications in the previous 3 months from today.
Weather forecast cloudy today with patchy rain and drizzle. Top temperature 16 to 18 degrees Celsius in a light to moderate southwest breeze. And that's Highland Radio News. Back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, from the news team, good morning.
Hello? Hiya. I was just reading about that awful crash at the crossroads. It was Kate's son who was killed.
Oh no.
The roads. So many deaths. Colm, look, I'm not nagging, but I've seen you flying up that road. Please slow down. Imagine it was your death notice.
Ma'am, it's grand.
I don't ever want the Gardaí calling here.
Chat to your loved ones about their unsafe driving today so you don't lose them tomorrow. A message from the Road Safety Authority.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, good morning to you. You're very welcome along to another week of the 9 till Noon Show. It's just turning 4 minutes past 9 on this Monday, the 29th of July. How are you all keeping? How was your weekend? Hopefully you're going to have a good week. We're going to have decent weather. It's not fantastic, but it's going to be dry for the most part and some sunny spells over the next, heading in towards the weekend when it gets wet again. So hopefully if you're off, you're able to do some stuff. If you're looking for suggestions, let us know. We'll see what other people have to say. The lines are open for you right now, of course. You can WhatsApp or text the show as always on 086 60 25,000. That's good for your voice notes as well, by the way, 086 60 25,000. Give us a call if you prefer on 07491 25,000, or if you want to email the show, it's comments@highlandradio.com. And a brief reminder that if it suits you to watch the programme, we stream the entire show live on YouTube, so you can watch on your smart screen TV or your Fire Stick at home if you wish. That's Highland Radio Ireland, and we're across the Facebook pages as well, Highland Hub, Highland News and Sport. The Derry News this morning: a retired Derry orthodontist found dead in his home gave people their smiles. His funeral was told. Dr. O'Sullivan was found dead at his Colmore Road home earlier this month. His remains, which had been laying in the house for a number of days, were discovered by police officers. When police arrived at the house, they had to force entry to the property and immediately noticed evidence that would suggest someone had passed away in the house some time before. On to the Nationals now and the Irish Times, and as if there isn't enough aggro going on in the world, we could be looking for a full-scale war in the Middle East. This is the Irish Times. Western diplomats are scrambling to prevent a surge of fighting along the Israel-Lebanon border after a rocket from Lebanon on Saturday killed at least 12 people in an Israeli-controlled town, most of them children. The rocket prompted Israel to retaliate early yesterday with strikes across Lebanon. Further strikes are anticipated after Israeli ministers discussed possible targets in Lebanon at a meeting yesterday evening and reportedly gave Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defence Minister Yoav Gallant authority to decide where to hit. And Iran has a big interest in Lebanon, of course, and it really has the potential to turn into a very big and bloody war. The initial Israeli response appeared to stop short of a major escalation, but there were fears that the fallout from the rocket launch would lead to all-out war. Mr. Netanyahu, facing domestic pressure to mount a fiercer response, met senior ministers and security officials late yesterday to discuss further steps after flying back early from a trip to the United States. On to the Independent now, and of course lots and lots of coverage of yesterday's All-Ireland final. What did you think of it? It wasn't, I suppose, a match for the purists who like old school kind of open football, kick it out, lob it into the centre and see who gets it and on you go for lots of period of time. It's the kind of football we've become used to now. But Armagh prevailed. It was kind of interesting watching it because, and I'm not no expert by any stretch of the imagination, I'm just a watcher, but Galway in the latter stages of that game sort of seemed to have made the same mistakes or the same problems Donegal had against Galway, if that makes sense, and Galway hadn't learnt from that. But Armagh was throwing the party to end all parties last night, 22 years after the Orchard County's last and first All-Ireland final victory. In a thrilling conclusion, Armagh saw off Galway's late challenge to win 111 to 13 points. But for families from Armagh and the Tribe faithful, the hotly anticipated final was more than about the Sam Maguire. It was about making memories as they exited the hallowed grounds of Croke Park. Orchard fans were elated, waving their flags and roaring up Armagh. Ciara McGuinness's men had just delivered, and Armagh families were in celebrational mood as they took the long road home. So what did you think of the game? We'll be chatting to Brendan Devaney a little later on. Any observations? Anything you want to talk about? I mean, we had a great year, didn't we, as Donegal fans, but then at the same time, you kind of be kicking yourself. Was it 3 times we beat Armagh? And they go on to beat the team that we beat us. Okay, the Irish Daily Mail this morning. It's going to be a big giveaway budget, and it is budget 25, but quite a lot of the goodies in the budget are going to be dished out this year, of course, ahead of the general election. Let's see what's on offer. Energy credits and double social welfare payments will all be front-loaded and paid to voters this year in a budget 2025 pre-election bonanza. Cabinet members said there will be a repeat of the €450 electricity credit that the coalition gave all customers in budget 2024. You'd wonder, though, like, why are we paying more money to electricity companies? The price of electricity surely should have come down at this point, you would imagine, wouldn't you? But still, we're paying through taxes more money to the electricity companies who are overcharging us. Instead of, by the way, these payments being paid in 3 150 instalments between December and March, it'll be paid out by December this year. The pre-Christmas rollout of benefits will also see a swathe of double social welfare payments after the last budget. Double welfare payments were distributed between November and January. Ministers say new EU rules, which will limit so-called once-off payments in 2025, mean the coalition has to get out available monies this year. However, some ministers admit that such a bonanza before a general election, which was to be held, has to be held early next year, will hardly be unwelcome to a coalition that already feels it has Sinn Féin on the run. On to the Star now, story that we might talk about a little later on, but just to flag it up for you, see what you think about this. A tripling of hours young learner drivers must complete under instruction is needed to prevent future road deaths, it is claimed. The Professional Driving Instructors Association also said that a massive overhaul of the learner driver training programme must be implemented to make the roads safer. As it stands, learners must take 12 one-hour sessions with a driving instructor, but the PDIA wants that increased to at least 30 hours. The association claims this will greatly increase the expertise of novice drivers, which in turn will cut down on the number of road collisions. Now, I can see exactly where they're coming from, and after another weekend of tragedy on the roads, it's very hard sort of to disagree with anything that might make them safer. That being said, already it's quite difficult to get on the road financially. You have to do your 12 tests. What are they, €50 each, or thereabouts? That would be 600. They're looking for it to be tripled. So you'd be talking €1,800 effectively, there or thereabouts. I don't know the exact figures, just in payments to a driving instructor before you actually sat your test. That's a lot of money, and not everyone could afford it. And that's the sort of price of a car for many getting on the road for the first time. And also, and I'm sorry to sound like a scratched record, but here we go. Until they start doing lessons, like we should have skid. We should have those skid tracks that you can go on to practice what to do in a braking and emergency. There's nothing about that in the curriculum as it stands. No driving in frost, no driving in ice, no driving in snow, no driving at night time, generally speaking, in the test itself. So I think we should probably look at stuff like that before we maybe lob another financial burden on often young drivers. I don't know. What do you think? Or is it a case that the roads are so treacherous that if tripling the amount of hours someone does before they take their test, would that help? Is that a price worth paying? Let me know what you think. 08660 25,000. This is one of those scams that I suppose it surprises me that people fall for it, but I don't mean that in any way judgy, if you know what I mean, because it stinks to high heavens. But the public has been warned of a new bank scam where account holders are persuaded to hand over their debit cards to taxi drivers and couriers. AIB is advising customers it will never ask to give their debit or credit card or bank details amid a rise in the number of these new scams. It's emerged in recent months. An increasing number of account holders have received text messages asking them to leave their cards out to be collected by a taxi driver or courier. In some instances, the scammers also request that the card is to be left under a mat at the door of their residence if they are not home. AIB's head of financial crime, Mary McHale, warned the public her company and other banks will never ask for personal data over the phone or on social media. I'm not saying it's not happening, but I'd love to speak to someone who was convinced to leave their bank cards under a mat or to hand them to a taxi driver. I just wonder, is this something someone heard and contacted the bank for advice, and they've just given some advice? The bank person, the AIB head of finance, doesn't actually really reference it. She says what she says here is fraudsters are becoming more and more sophisticated, and we have seen an increase in the number of cases of this kind of taxi or courier scam in recent weeks. So they are admitting it's happening. I don't think that's sophisticated. I think it's really quite crude. But anyway, has anyone or anyone you know been the victim of that or nearly a victim of it? And finally, iconic Irish novelist Edna O'Brien has died at 93 after a long illness. An agent statement yesterday said, "Our thoughts are with her family and friends, in particular her sons Marcus and Carlo. The family has requested privacy at this time." Born in rural County Clare in 1930, she was educated by nuns. Edna moved to Dublin and then spent much of her life in London. She published her first novel, The Country Girls, in 1960, but the book was banned by the censor for its sexually explicit content. Okay, so if you're a fan of hers, you will be sad to hear that news. Okay, we'll be back with more shortly.
Daily newspapers are courtesy of Cosgrove, Centra and Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
On this week's Deal Debate, it's All-Ireland football final weekend. Armagh versus Galway. We'll look back at all the action with analysis from two former GA stars of the game, Galway's Sean Dupuyer and Armagh's Aaron Kernan. We'll also get the views of Gaelic Life's Michael McMullen on the championship season of 2024. That's a Deal Debate this Monday, just after 7pm news, and podcast at highlandradio.com.
The DL Debate with Sister Sarah's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9pm daily in Sarah's Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Did you know lots of babies feed much more in the evening than during the day? When you get used to your baby's routine, you can adjust yours too, so you can sit down and feed when your baby is usually hungry. Visit mychild.ie for advice on pregnancy, baby and toddler health.
Join us at CFC Interiors Campsie Derry this Saturday for our big summer blowout. Huge reductions across all departments, including sofas, beds and furniture. Everything must go, with amazing discounts of up to 70% off. Start Saturday for 1 week only at CFC Interiors Campsie Derry.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
Okay, the time is 16 minutes past 9. Welcome back to the show. Now, we had to have an awful lot of patience to watch from beginning to end. But on Friday, the French Paris Olympics opening ceremony took place. And the organisers since of that Paris Olympics are facing a backlash after an apparent drag queen parody of Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper featured in the opening ceremony. Far-right politicians criticised the skit, with Marion Maréchal, a member of the European Parliament, apologising to all the Christians of the world who felt insulted by the performance. The controversial scene featured at the end of the 4-hour show when, in heavy rain, a group of around a dozen performers, including drag queens, struck poses behind a long table. At the centre was a woman wearing a headdress that resembled a crown while holding her hands out in a heart shape. She was flanked by drag performers and other artists who danced alongside her. So there has been quite a bit of reaction to this. And Katie Tyrrell McCafferty, a contributor to this programme in the past, of course, has been writing about it, and we invited Katie on to have a chat. Katie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, so what do you think of this controversy? I suppose, firstly, with the parody of The Last Supper, can you understand why? I don't think you have to be far right necessarily to be offended by it, but that's how people are being framed in the newspapers. What did you make of that sketch?
It's not The Last Supper.
Right.
Is what I made of it. That's why. And if it had been, I could understand. But it's not The Last Supper. Why would the French Olympic Committee that organised the opening ceremony have a parody of a painting that is painted by an Italian, doesn't hang in any of the French galleries, still hangs in Italy? It's not The Last Supper. And for me, you can quite clearly see that. It's about Dionysus, who has obviously a tie to the Olympics because he's Greek. Yeah, that painting that it depicts also hangs in France. Dionysus, or Bacchus, as he's known as, is the god of wine and partying. Yeah? Mm. So that's why it's not The Last Supper. The woman in the crown is the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty was a gift from France to the USA. That's not a table. That's a runway depicting Paris Fashion Week. So now the French Olympic Committee have apologised for any unintended offence, but that's not The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah, but listen, I know what you're saying, and it's not your work, and you've quite well broken it down for us there. But the bottom line is that it looks like The Last Supper, and I can't. It
doesn't.
Well, it does, Katie. I mean,
where's the blue man? Where's the big blue man in the picture of The Last Supper? There was a guy laying on the table that looks like Papa Smurf.
Yes. Okay.
Right? That's not in The Last Supper.
Yeah, but he comes. But he is The Last Supper. He comes out from underneath the. He's what's for dinner.
Yeah, but that's because he's the party god, and France is holding the big party. It's clearly not It's not The Last Supper. It really isn't. And yeah, I would not have liked a Last Supper depicted because I don't think religion has a place in the Olympics. The Olympics is about celebrating world citizens who are good at their game. And France actually have very strict, it's a very secular country. You're not allowed religious imagery. You're not allowed to wear crosses. You're not allowed to wear hijabs. You're not allowed to wear kippas if you're like a government employee or, So why would they turn their back on that so much?
But there's a very in France. There's a very sort of anti-clerical movement. Blasphemy is not illegal there, for an example. There has been quite a pushback. Listen, I mean, I'm looking at a split image, and people watching at home are looking at a split image. And to me, you're saying it's not The Last Supper, right? But it looks very much like mocking The Last Supper. whether it was the intent or not, someone must have said this is going to cause offence to Christians. I don't think you'd be able to flirt with the potential to upset other religions, for an example, Katie.
But that wasn't the and we saw what happened with the Charlie Hebdo stuff, right? I'm not. I don't think that was the intention. I think it was celebrating Greece, partying, and France. You know. Listen, I love an Olympic opening ceremony, and to me, nothing's going to beat 2012. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm very biased, right? And it celebrated great achievements like the NHS and stuff like that. But I don't. Why would France have a depiction of the Last Supper, which is nothing to do with France? It's painted by an Italian, and it doesn't hang in the Louvre. It hangs in Italy. Do you know what I mean? You know, and the Last Supper, I think, is a beautiful painting. I think it's a beautiful painting. I can see I can see behind it. But let's be honest, that's not what the Last Supper would have looked like, because Jesus is white in it. And we know that Jesus wouldn't be white with blonde hair. He's a Palestinian.
The whole thing was a parody of it, though. Do you know what I mean? I think sometimes, though, and I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about the organisers. When you're explaining, you're sort of losing, if you know what I mean. And for me, it quite clearly is by accident. Sorry, not by accident, but by design. It quite clearly is a two-fingered salute to Christianity. That's how I see it, or Catholicism, or whatever way you want to describe it. I understand where you're coming from, but to me, it's as clear as the nose on my face.
No, to me, it didn't look anything like the Last Supper. Honestly, it really didn't to me. But I think that you get this a lot in the art world and in the arts, right? And I'm a very big fan of the arts, as you know, right? When you have to go to certain lengths to explain art, then I think it becomes a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? A bit po-faced, a bit, you're just not an intellectual, therefore you don't understand it. And I'd have to agree with that analysis. But I quite clearly knew that wasn't the Last Supper. But I'm not saying that I'm intellectual or anything like that. I've been to the Louvre and I knew who Bacchus was. Do you want to know how I knew who Bacchus was?
Go ahead.
This blue fella. Because I used to drink in a pub called the Bacchus's Bin in Stratford in E15 in London. And they had a picture of the blue fella on the wall. That's how I knew it was Bacchus.
So what picture are you saying that it's imitating?
It's imitating the feast of Danaus, who is also known as Bacchus, yeah?
Okay.
I can send you the picture.
No, I'm going to look at it here. The feast of Danaus. Spelling Danaus could be an issue.
Spell it.
Just Danaus.
It's Dionaysus.
All right, okay, let's see here now. Well, it looks more like the Last Supper than that, to be honest with you.
There's various pictures of it. It's the one that hangs in the Louvre anyway.
Right,
but
okay.
There's various, because it's quite a renowned. He's a renowned Greek god. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's wine and partying, which the French can do. We know that. Do you know what I mean? They like a party and they like wine. So, but that's who it is. The Papa Smurf guy is Danaus. You know.
Yeah.
But
like,
yeah,
when
you have
looking at this picture, Katie, I would say they did a very, very bad job of imitating or parodying that picture, and instead feel that they've done it looks like the Last Supper.
Okay.
Whether that was the intent or not, for me, it's. I mean, they're, for instance, in that picture you talk of, they're lying all around the table as well. You know, where and the posing of the image for the opening ceremony looks more like the posing for the Last Supper. But anyway, it's art, right? So people are going to interpret it different ways.
exactly. And it was supposed to say the Paris runway, but can we not? We can't take the Statue of Liberty out of there, right? Where's the woman in the crown with the crown on in the Last Supper? Where is she? She's quite clearly front and centre in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the woman with the crown.
Yeah.
Quite big woman.
Yeah.
Who's couldn't have missed her. That's not in the Last Supper. There's no women at the Last Supper, and there's no one with a crown on.
Yeah.
She's quite clearly the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, but it's not a representation of it. It is. It's not a representation of it. It's a parody of it. So, yeah. But anyway, that could be. You could talk about crowns of thorns, or it's art, so everyone could determine. Outside of that, there was other things that were deemed as controversial. I wouldn't have an issue with, to be honest with you. Did you find anything else?
No. So some people have. Listen, I appreciate this is an early morning breakfast show, but there was some people were talking about a man with a little bit more on show than normal, but apparently that was a hole in his fishnet tights, and I can see how that would have happened. Do you know what I mean?
That was just a slippage issue.
But it actually isn't what people think it is. So if you've got fishnet tights on and one of them go, it would make a big hole in your flesh colour. Yes, right, okay. So I'm quite mindful of that. It's 9:15, Greg. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, right. It wasn't my favourite opening ceremony, I have to say. It was, but it's Paris. It's flamboyant. It's celebrating lots of art, and I mean, I didn't want it to be a parody of a load of can-can dancers. Do you know what I mean? So they were trying to celebrate their cultural history, I think. But I love the Olympics, and I love all the stuff that goes into it. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it wouldn't have been my favourite of opening ceremonies, this is put it that way. But as I told you, I'm quite biased. I mean, James Bond and the Queen jumping out of an helicopter, top that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
You know?
Right, Katie, listen, thanks for that. I appreciate your insight, and everything's subjective and all. It just, as I say, my view is that it is so similar to the Last Supper that it couldn't be a coincidence, but you see it a different way, and that's where it is. We don't have to agree on everything.
Way.
Yeah, okay.
No, and I wouldn't be defending something that I thought that was offensive to any religion. Do you know what I mean? I'm not just because it's Christianity. I'm from a Christian background myself, so and I actually really like the Last Supper as a painting, I have to say. In fact, most of my favourite paintings are religious.
Yeah.
I actually don't get modern art. That's what I'm saying. I don't like art that has to be explained to me. That didn't have to be explained to me, but I don't like all these people that just draw squares and things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Darren on Facebook says in relation to the fishnet thingamajig, he says a lot of stuff, but the bit I can read out, he says that clearly was his new Nas. That woman,
right.
That woman is ridiculous in her view.
Oh right, okay,
that's
fine. He can say I'm ridiculous. I'll have to see what he says, but
yeah, okay.
Fine.
Well, I didn't see that bit.
Listen, that's democracy. He can call me ridiculous.
Okay. Right,
anyway,
Katie, thanks so much.
No problem.
Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
No problem.
See you
Bye.
soon. All right. There's a mixture of views in relation to that. That person is trying to defend the indefensible. It is a take on the Last Supper. That's how I would see it. But another, Katie's 100% right. It's not the Last Supper. It's Caroline, how did you say I should pronounce that? You've forgotten now, have you? Dionysus. That's how educated I am. Another caller says, tell that woman to wise up. She hasn't a clue. It's only her opinion. The rest of us see the Last Supper similarity. Dionysus, that's it, of course. Yes, but I mean, it is her opinion. That's fine. And all of our opinions can coexist. One doesn't have to cancel out the other. Okay.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Hi folks, Paul McDevitt here, inviting you to join myself and Jimmy Stafford this Monday night for another edition of the Monday Night Sessions. On the show this week, we welcome Ballybofey singer-songwriter Shauna Scanlon, and from the Iron Islands, we give a massive welcome to Padraig Jack. Also joining us for a chat and a few songs, we welcome from Rathmullen, up-and-coming rock band The Odysseys. So, that's the Monday Night Sessions, this Monday night between 8pm and 10pm, as always, right here on Highland Radio.
Make great photos into beautiful gifts at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. Different gift ideas include canvas prints, freestanding or ready-to-hang art blocks, and personalised photo books, perfect to mark any occasion. There's also jigsaws, calendars, mugs, and much more. For details, visit mcgees.ie. Turn your favourite moments into something truly special with McGee's Chemist Letterkenny.
Every day's an exciting adventure with the National Trust. Spend summer exploring magnificent mansions, glorious gardens, tree-lined trails and riverside rambles. Hop into the wildlife heptathlon at Mount Stewart or walk the plank by the River Blackwater at the Argery. Pick up pond dipping kits at Florence Court. Take aim at archery at Castle Ward or try lazy lawn games at Rowan Garden. With lots of "Can we come again?" on the way home. Search National Trust NI to find out more. National Trust, for everyone, forever.
Are you worried about trees on your property? Northwest Forestry Services Ballybofey are fully insured and have over 40 years experience in dangerous tree removal, tree felling, surgery and stump grinding. For peace of mind, call Northwest Forest Services Ballybofey for a no obligation quotation on 913233.
Now we're joined by Anne-Marie. Hi, Anne-Marie.
Morning, Craig. How are you?
I'm doing good. You're also reacting to the opening ceremony, are you?
I am. I thought it was brilliant. My favourite part was that horse going up the water, near the end when they were bringing the Olympic flag up. But what my beef with it is like, you know yourself from having me on before, like I'm under my rock, I'm a metal, and Gojira played on the Marie Antoinette scene.
That's
and
the guys. Is that the guys that were up on sort of the windowsills? So that's what the image.
Yes,
okay.
That's right. They were strapped on. And like the first time ever a rock metal band got to play an Olympic opening ceremony, and the commentators talked over the top of them.
What channel were you watching it on?
I had it on BBC, and I also found with BBC that the sound quality was terrible.
That's right.
For the whole thing, like the commentators' voices were really loud, but whenever they weren't talking, the sound quality wasn't great. So I switched to RTE while Gojira was on because I wanted to hear what they were playing, and their quality was a bit better on RTE. But none of them knew who they were, so just because they didn't know who they were, they thought it was okay to talk over the top of them. Well, but they wouldn't have done it to Celine Dion or Lady Gaga.
No, of course not. Actually, it's a really good. That is actually a really good point indeed. But you see, whatever way the BBC were covering it, they didn't have a clean feed of the audio. It was almost we were listening to what the commentators were listening to, and it annoys me, Anne-Marie, exactly what you're talking about. It's the exact same as the likes of the Eurovision. I know they're two completely different things, but this double act trying to be witty talking over stuff is so ignorant. I switched to Eurosport. They had a perfectly clean feed, right? And the two people presenting that understood and were able to interpret. One of the ladies was French, were able to understand and interpret all of the sort of elements of it, which I thoroughly enjoyed it once I switched away from the nonsense on BBC.
Yeah, because I went onto YouTube then to try and get a clean feed of Gojira on Saturday just to hear what the actual song was, and I found the Eurosport link, but again, they had talked over the top of it as well.
I switched over from the BBC at that point.
Yeah, but you see, Greg, I take it that as because Gojira isn't, like, to us, we know who they are because they're our genre of music.
Yeah.
But outside of that, like, people didn't realise who they were. And, like, Gojira's on the go since 1996, nearly 30 years ago, like. So, but just because they didn't know, they thought it was okay to talk over the top of them. They didn't talk over the opera singer that come along in the boat, who was doing the duet with them. But, yeah, and the other thing you were on about the witty remarks too, I did notice that when it came to that part on BBC, whenever they were doing the 80s, 90s dance sequence, that the commentator, I think he was Cotton, Andrew Cotton or something. I can't remember his name. He
Well,
said
Hazel
that,
Irvine was the lady anyway.
yeah, well, whoever he was, he says, whether like it's an 80s, 90s segment, dance segment now, whether you want to listen to it or not. And I thought, hey, hold on, that's you wouldn't have said it for London. Whenever London had
No,
it,
but it's this
you know,
forced
London-
banter, you see. It's this forced banter that they seem to think the audience wants, and maybe they do want it, little witticisms and jokes in inverted commas, especially even when the competitors were sailing down the river. I just don't. I want to watch. The amount of money, time, preparation, and everything that went into it, I would have just liked it with no commentary. I don't understand why they think we want a commentary, or at least give us an alternative. But the sound was brutal on the BBC in any case. So who are Gojira then? I mean, in terms of rock, how big are they? I think they're international, obviously.
They are they're big enough international band for us that listens to them. Like I mean, they're out going since '96. So they are brothers like Joe and Mario Duplantier, and then there's another fellow, Christian Andrew, and Jean-Michel Labadie, who plays the bass. Like, and that's the same band since they were originally named Godzilla from 1960 2001, but then they changed the name 2001, and they've been Gojira since. Like, but yeah, I mean, they play all the big festivals on around Europe and stuff like that. So they do. So I mean, yeah, all on our forums that we would be onto at the weekend, the metal forums were like loving it that they got to play, but everybody was saying the same thing. Why were the commentators talking over the top of them? I even noticed that on YouTube, on that Eurosport link, that there was somebody put up a comment, and it got a lot of reaction. That one comment.
I just found the rest of the stuff that I watched on Eurosport, they were interpreting the images, which I don't mind. Okay, so I'm not a very so if they say, right, this is what this is about, or this is what that represents, I don't mind that. But talking over, you've said it. Listen, they didn't speak over the opera singer. They didn't speak over Celine Dion, who was amazing, and they didn't speak over Lady Gaga.
She was very good.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I didn't see her. I didn't see Gaga. I was
very
actually out of the
French.
house at that stage.
It was very French.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I seen it in the news after it finished that it showed Gaga, and she spoke French whenever she came out, or something, or at the end of it. Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I mean, overall, I thought it was pretty good opening ceremony. Look, Greg, the way I looked at it was they did that with no rehearsal.
Yeah.
No, there was no run through. That was it. And I thought they done very well to get it done. And then that torrential rain that they had in Paris and. I
think the rain actually added to the a lot of the presentation.
Yeah.
Anne-Marie, listen, thanks very much for talking
No
to me.
bother.
Appreciate it. Take
Thanks
care of
a million,
yourself.
Greg.
Bye
Good
bye.
luck.
All right, that's Anne-Marie there, a big fan of Gojira, and Gojira it should be. I should have said, and that's her view. Good journalism advocates presenting both opinions in any debate. Good practice, Greg. Well, that section of the programme is about listeners, and we are more than happy to speak to anyone who was offended or not offended by elements of the opening ceremony. That being said, I think it's pretty clear that I am of the opinion that clearly was a mockery, a parody, whatever you want to call it, of the Last Supper, and that talked of the upset amongst Christians and non-Christians as well. So I thought it was pretty balanced, but listen, I'll take your point. We're so looking forward to the Olympics now. I won't tune into any of it. They were simply mocking Christianity. No excuses, and stop insulting Greek mythology. Really, we should be talking, though, shouldn't we, about Mona McSharry, who is from Sligo, of course, strong sort of, I think she did a lot of her early training and what have you in Ballyshannon. I'm sure we've eked out a link to Ballyshannon before. Maybe it's her mother or father are from Ballyshannon. We certainly have found some connection previously. But she's going tonight with a chance of medaling as well. She's done fantastic. I think she broke the Irish record yesterday and has become the first female swimmer in 29 years to reach the world long course final. Is that the right article there? Yeah, indeed. So she's going tonight. I think it's about 8:25, so we'll be watching that. Dear moderator, to deny that the incident in the Paris opening play is not a Last Supper mockery is nothing but a great cover-up. This is not what Olympics ought to be. Indeed, that is your view. Thank you very much for it. It's appreciated. Art's blasphemy, more like. Some say Mary Magdalene is in the Last Supper painting. She was a woman, as far as I was taught. Another, they knew well what they were at, and Kathy knows it too. The world isn't stupid or delusional like her using the Greek mythology. It was a handy skit to make mockery of the church by her, by the LGBTQ community. Another, Greg, the opening ceremony was clearly intended to appear like the Last Supper. The blue man was served as the meal. Aside from that, the man on the left of centre exposed his genitalia, albeit possibly accidentally. The issue here is that equality to the trans community means that they do not have to accept or respect people's religious belief, but everyone must fully accept trans ideology or be vilified and cancelled. That's not equality. And also, too, if there is a sort of a wider point to be made, about people with, the trans community or wherever, whatever, if you want to get your point across, it's probably not best to sort of poke at Christianity or maybe even your supporters within the Christian community. Right, I have to take a very quick break. I'll be chatting to Paul after these.
We all need somewhere. The teammates, the team mentors, the team makers, the administrators, the lift givers, the lift teachers, the county boards, the county legends, the flag raisers, the flag wavers, the newcomers, the old timers, the under 8s, the over 80s, the best friends, the biggest rivals.
The 140th anniversary of the GAA is a time to thank every player, volunteer and supporter who nurture and enrich our games, our communities and each other. GAA, where we all belong.
Donegal County Council is hosting an information evening to inform and provide details of a proposed development involving a change of the N15 or 232 Lahey Junction to a roundabout. This event will be held on Tuesday, 30th of July from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Lahey Hall. The project is currently out to public consultation, and plans and particulars can be viewed online via the council website or at the offices of Donegal County Council in Lifford or Donegal Town.
Eurodreams is the new game from the National Lottery, where you could win €20,000 a month for the next 30 years. That's €20,000 every month for 30 years. Draws take place every Monday and Thursday, so pick up a Eurodreams ticket for your chance to win.
Play responsibly, in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Your brand new Nissan is waiting for you at iMotors. Don't worry if you've missed out on the 242 pre-sales. We have a wide variety of Nissan cars to suit you, including the SUV of the year, the Nissan X-Trail. Avail of finance offers starting at 0% or save €10,000 off the Nissan Leaf. Visit imotors.ie and get immediate delivery today or visit our showroom.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by McElhenny's. Support a local Donegal business with McElhenny's. From fashion to home essentials, find everything you need for any occasion. Shop McElhenny's Ballybuffet for quality you can trust.
Okie doke, so let's look at this weather forecast then. Today, cloudy with patchy rain and drizzle. The amount of rain falling is going to be minute, by the way. Temperatures 16 to 18 degrees, winds light to moderate. Paul Brown is with me now. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Greg. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks so much for... thank you so much for your accepting the invite to speak to us. Right, take us back to last November. I think that's where this story starts, Paul.
Yeah, well, a few of us, Greg, were up in Bundoran. We were in the Great Northern Hotel, and we were playing a few rounds of golf over a weekend. And that morning, the 3rd of November, we decided to go for a swim before breakfast on the beach. And then we went anyway, and we just swam at the part of the beach there just below the rocks at the Great Northern. And me not knowing the local stuff or whatever. Anyway, we went in, three of us. One of the lads got out after a few minutes. It was cool. And the other guy then after him, and I was just following them. And I just got down for one more swim. I was within my depth. The waves were pretty full on, and I had intended to stay within my depth, so I just got down for one last swim, swimming parallel with the beach as you should. And when I came up again, I realised, I'm a little bit further out, and I started to swim back, and that's when I realised I was in trouble because I was like swimming into a brick wall. I knew I was caught in something.
And what was the sensation like? It was you were obviously expending an awful lot of energy but making no progress.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I say it's like, although it's a contradiction, almost like swimming into a brick wall.
Yeah.
I just knew that no matter how good a swimmer I was or how hard I tried, I wasn't at that point where I wasn't getting back in that direction. So thankfully the boys, I put my life down to the lads were there. I shouted in and I saw one of them run for his phone, so I just decided there and then that best I could do would just stay up as long as I can, because I knew once they were on it, they'd ring the Coast Guard or whatever.
Yeah.
They tried. There's life rings on the beach, and they tried to throw those out to me, but I was too far out at that stage. And then I noticed over to my right, over the other side of if you know Bundoran, it's a U shape, and
yes.
I noticed some rock sticking up, and I thought if I could get near, over there, I could maybe hang on until help arrived, and the current was taking me that way naturally anyway. But every time I tried to swim to the shore, the waves were coming behind me and knocking me down, so that's when I decided I couldn't. I just turned with my back to shore and allowed myself to float, because that way I could see the waves coming and I could prepare for them.
And just in relation to that, Paul, because that's exactly what the advice is and what we should be doing.
Yeah.
How did you panic, and did you just use, what your common sense in that moment, or had you heard heard the advice in what to do in a rip current situation before?
I had heard it somewhere.
Right.
I swim down here in Dublin, I go to Dollymount, and I'd heard somebody say that before. I don't know how I managed not to panic. When I shouted and the lads heard me, I was taken over by sheer terror for a couple of seconds, and something in my head said, no, you can't go there. If you go there, you're finished. And then it became just a whole series of problem solving, staying up, thinking, watching, where could I go, how could I, and I was just very lucky that the current did take me sort of parallel with the shore and across, and then, would you believe it, started taking me back towards the beach. So really, for me, in that situation, all you can do is go with it. The fact that I knew help was on its way, I thought if I could just stay up as long as it takes them to get there, that will be the thing,
Is there a technique to floating? Because to be honest with you, even in Paul, even in a swimming pool environment, I find myself when I try and do it, I'm going to sink, and I automatically fight against the float, if that makes sense. What is the technique? Is it easy to explain over the phone?
Well, in the sea it's different. It's more dense, isn't it?
Yeah, more salt. Yeah.
You float better. But in my case there, it was a semi-float, so I was still, if you like, just gently moving my hands.
Yeah.
So for me at that point, it was more of a mixture of floating and
treading
and light treading. Exactly, exactly. Because I think it will be very hard in that situation to just do absolutely nothing.
Yeah. And also, the advice given is that, and this is where people might sort of panic and fight against it, is your ears will be submerged. You're supposed to spread out into a starfish position. So I suppose it's to trust the process, isn't it? And not fear that you're going to fall deeper than you might. And the reason I'm saying this is because we'll be thinking all of this through. God forbid if we ever found ourselves in this situation. It's okay if your legs sink. Some people float differently, but it's a case of getting yourself into the starfish position, accepting that your ears will be underwater. Relax and try and control your breathing, and you should float because there's enough within us to make us float.
Absolutely, and that's what happened. I can testify to that, but it is hard, I suppose. The thing is, there's no question if you try to swim against something like that, for me, I knew I wouldn't make it because, I tried a couple of times and I had to stop because I said if I just keep doing that, I'm just going to completely run out of steam and I'm going to end up in big trouble, So, yeah.
Okay. So you then you actually had to be rescued then as well. So this bought you time. The amazing people down at the Bundoran RNLI, it's astonishing how quickly they can get their boat into the water and get to people in need. But did they have to rescue you, or were you able to make sure yourself, Paul?
Well, I was actually, the rip eventually took me back to shore.
Right.
And yeah, I came in then almost at the other side of the beach.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of took me out in an arc and back around. I was just so lucky, and the only thing that I could do, I suppose, was go with it. But I was able to go with it in the knowledge that no matter how far out I had been pushed, that once I was above water, those guys would find me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So it wasn't a battle of about. Strangely enough, I did get back to shore, but it wasn't. If you like, I knew they would come because I knew I could see my friend on the beach had his phone in his hand, and he had rang for help.
You employing the fighting the instincts, which is what I suppose we all would have to do initially, and you being able to employ the float to live, as it's being called, position, one way or other, it saved you, whether it was getting back to the shore or buying you the time for the lifeboat to get out to you. And, that's a renowned beach for riptides. There is advice there on where you should and shouldn't swim. But especially, if you go exploring and decide to go out for a swim on your own, this is all the type of advice you need to keep in your back in your head. Keep in the back of your head, Paul. God forbid you do get caught in some sort of a ripped current like you did.
Absolutely. Well, had I been on my own, I was a gunner.
Right,
because I know had I been on my own, I would have fought differently, in that I would have said to myself, right, there's nobody coming here, so I've got to get myself back. And I would have tried to swim against it, if you know what I mean. I would have fought it much harder, and I would have exhausted myself. So had I been on my own in that situation, I think I was a goner.
Yeah, and I suppose the other advice too.
Shout out to Barry and Damien, who were on the beach and who made the call, because literally without those guys, I wouldn't be here today.
All right, Paul. Well, I'm glad you are, and thanks so much for speaking to us. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, all right, Greg. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Mind yourself.
Yep, you too. Paul
Cheers.
Brown there. And I suppose the advice is it's about getting the float to live message out. There's also advice that, if you are in bother, you can swim parallel to the shore and try and get out of the rip current that way as well. As I say, look, more and more people are in the water. It's a really busy weekend. A lot of us aren't experienced. Some of us are in the water, and it's just in case that information lands with someone, or we can have that conversation with our young ones, to make sure they're okay as well. No to putting up driver fees, not on, but if it put the guards back into towns and nip it in the bud, as they would know who's driving badly. Why not have driving instruction, tests, driving qualifications as a school leaving cert subject? I would be a huge advocate of that. I think for me, that is a no-brainer, because, you get people when they're in learning mode, in the school mode. You can be hard-hitting with some of the information if that needs be, if that's what helps. I really think we should be teaching, and water safety, by the way, as well. That was a big thing when I was in school. I'm not sure it is as much now. I know you're taking swimming and all that kind of stuff, if you're lucky enough to be in a school that does that. Hi, did you hear the latest? They're going to put water pipes in the coming... Sorry, they're going to put water pipes coming out of the Polestar, heading out by the Dry Arch roundabout after putting the new cycle lanes on. Good planning Really? I thought they laid those water pipes ahead of the 4 lanes project. I thought that already had been done. We'll check into that. Greg, do you or your listeners know the late Edna O'Brien had a holiday home in Carrickfinn for many years? I did not know that. Fantastic information. Of some great memories of her in Donegal. She was lovely and talked lovingly of her time spent here in many of her interviews. I wasn't aware, and I'm always best, I think, to be as honest as possible. I wasn't very familiar with Edna O'Brien's work because I'm not a huge reader. But listen, that's a lovely local angle, that she had a holiday home in Carrickfinn and spoke warmly of the place. Good morning. I'm having a problem connecting directly to Highland Radio yesterday and today. I live in Scotland. I don't know if there is anything that can be done to rectify it. Thank you. I'm not sure. I'll double check that out, see if there's any issues with the app. Is it TuneIn that you're using? A lot of people use TuneIn, or is it your smart speaker, or is it on the Highland Radio website? If you let me know, I can dig a little bit deeper for you. But thank you very much for your feedback. I just wanted to say well done to the lifeguards on duty at Marble Hill Beach, Dunfanaghy, in the public last week. Our daughter got into trouble, and due to the fast actions of the public, our daughter is safe and well. We just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone in the emergency services. Very happy to relate that for you. It must have been so scary. It really is a worst nightmare situation, isn't it? I just tried to cancel my Sky Ireland contract as the house is being demolished in a few weeks. They're going to charge me over €200 in fines for cancelling broadband early and are refusing to disconnect the TV package. They say they'd send a bill for satellite TV at the rubble of my home until the contract ends next year. Horrible company. The guy on the phone said that Sky would do this in every situation, no matter how devastating or extraordinary the circumstances. Wouldn't even put me through to a supervisor because he said without a hint of shame that they did the same thing to the Pyrite families in Dublin. Wow. Not good customer service. That sounds like a horrendous phone call. What about the Leck Road? We were told 6 years ago that the Leck Road would be improved and nothing has been done. Will the Leck Road be part of the 10T project? A lot of residents in the area are looking to sell their houses and they're devalued as the road is so bad. We'll try and get an update for you on that at some point. Okay, we're going to take a break now for the news and obituary notices, and we'll be back thereafter. Stay right where you are.
Thinking of changing your floors? Why not see what Florid Letterkenny has to offer? Florid have a large selection of solid, semi-solid and laminate click vinyl wood flooring together with a fantastic choice of parquet, herringbone flooring, all at incredible value. Don't delay. Call Florid today on 087 161 7008.
Imagine a dream wedding on a lake, all-day casual dining by a magical shore, fine dining or glorious afternoon tea surrounded by beautiful mountains, or a fabulous bar filled with music, laughter and song. Imagine no more. Harvey's Point, Loch Esk, Donegal, 07497 22208 or harveyspoint.com. Close by, but a different world.
Are you struggling to secure finance for your small business? Microfinance Ireland can help. We are a government-funded lender supporting both established small businesses and startups. Our business loans are unsecured, with interest rates as low as 6.5%. And we work closely with local enterprise offices. So if you need help and guidance, they are a great place to start. Find out more at microfinanceIreland.ie. Microfinance Ireland, helping small businesses with big ideas.
The Highland Radio Outside broadcast team are on the road once again. Tune in this Wednesday at 2:30 for the Jive Time Show with David James, and on Friday morning for Greg Hughes and the 9 till noon show, with both shows live from the heart of the Mary from Dunlo International Arts Festival to celebrate their fun-filled programme of events. Check out the full lineup on maryfromdunlo.ie. Brought to you in association with Cavanagh SuperValue Dunlo.
Live on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donal Kavanagh at the news desk. 2 paddleboarders drifting out to sea at Bunlin Bar just past the Carrickfad Rocks in Donegal Bay were rescued by the Bundoran lifeboat yesterday afternoon. With the details, here's Sheila Nocton.
The father of one of the casualties made a call to the Coast Guard after seeing the 2 girls being blown further out to sea. The RNLI says the lifeboat launched in calm weather with low wind. The lifeboat was on the scene within 5 minutes and brought the girls safely to Creevy Pier. The RNLI says both were wearing buoyancy aids and appeared to be in good health. One of them had her mobile phone with her, allowing them to maintain communication while adrift. Rory O'Connor, the helm on the call, says that something like this can easily happen to anyone going out into the water, and it's important that both casualties were wearing their buoyancy aids.
Ryanair is calling on the Transport Minister to raise the funding cap at Ireland's regional airports. The airline argues the regional limit of 1 million passengers per year to qualify for funding should be at least doubled to 2 million. It says the restrictions are hampering tourism, jobs and economic growth around the country. Ryanair's CEO Eddie Wilson says the government has a responsibility to stimulate those areas.
The EU allows regional airports to be funded by the state up to 3 million passengers, and the Irish government has said no, it's 1 million passengers. So what that sort of dysfunction now manifests itself. You take Knock Airport, for example, that has 900,000 passengers per year, won't go above 1 million because they lose everything. So now you have a vital piece of infrastructure that is artificially restrained by the government.
Almost half of the Irish population are visiting their local pharmacy once a week. A recent survey of over 2,000 people by the Irish Pharmacy Union found 51% visited a pharmacy in the last 7 days, 88% in the past month. It comes as IPU members step up their campaign for increased payments. They say the amount they're paid for work done on behalf of the state hasn't increased for 16 years. Donegal pharmacist Tom Murray is IPU president. He says Minister Stephen Donnelly needs to support the pharmacy sector.
Pharmacies will be required to invest in more staff so we can provide more services. And we want to do more to alleviate pressure in other areas in the healthcare sector in Ireland. That requires that we will have to address the 16-year pay freeze that exists in pharmacy. We are ready and willing to do more, but we do require, in support of the Minister's vision through the task force, that he would support the pharmacy sector.
Questions have again been raised about the adequacy of neurology cover at Letterkenny University Hospital. At a recent meeting of the Regional Health Forum West, Councillor Jerry McMonigal said the number of patients who suffer from MS in the hospital's catchment area merits 2 full-time neurology consultants, and asked what's being done to achieve that. He was told funding is being sought to develop the department in Letterkenny, and there is a firm commitment to do so, although it may take time. Councillor McMonigal says the current provision simply isn't enough.
They have felt the group, which I was pleased to hear, that their strategic priority for the group is to develop and progress neurology clinical service in 2024. The group is also, Shelter is also finalising the priorities for the service plan next year. And look, we just need to get full-time consultants based in Letterkenny University Hospital. It's imperative that that happens very soon. People having to travel to Sligo, Galway, it shouldn't be happening in this day and age.
There's a plan to further speed up the process of international protection applications. From today, cases from the top 2 countries of origin with the highest number of applicants will be prioritised. With more, here's Cliona O'Dwyer.
There were 881 international protection applications from Jordan in the second quarter of this year, making it the country with the second highest volume of applications. Applicants from this country will now be processed on an accelerated basis. This builds on April, which saw citizens of the country with the highest number of people in the previous quarter, Nigeria, being prioritised and its processing being sped up. Nigeria has seen a 53% drop in applications since processing was fast-tracked. The Justice Minister, Helen McEntee, says the International Protection Office will prioritise cases from the top 2 countries of origin with the highest number of applications in the previous 3 months from today.
Weather forecast, it'll be cloudy today with patchy rain and drizzle. Top temperature 16 to 18 degrees Celsius in a light to moderate southwest breeze. Cloudy at first tonight with patchy light rain and drizzle spreading eastwards. The rain and drizzle will clear later with drier weather and clear spells following from the west. Lowest overnight temperatures 9 to 11 in a light westerly or variable breeze. A dry start tomorrow with sunny spells, but it will turn cloudier in the morning with patchy light rain and drizzle once again, becoming dry and bright again by afternoon in top temperatures of 17 to 20 degrees Celsius, a light northwesterly or variable breeze. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with headlines at 11. Check all of today's news on our website, highlandradio.com. But for now, from the news team, good morning. The obituary notices for this Monday morning, the 29th of July. The death has taken place of Mary Elizabeth, Lizzie Doherty, Nae McElhinney, Minna Duff, Clonmany. Her remains will repose at her home from 11 o'clock this morning. Funeral from there on Wednesday morning at 10:20, going to St Mary's Church, Clonmany for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. House private pleas from 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. with family only pleas on the morning of the funeral. The funeral mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. The death has occurred of Bridget McAleer, née McConaughey, 67 Orchard Road, Sign Mills, reposing at the family home from 11 o'clock this morning. Funeral from there on Wednesday morning at 10:15 for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock in St Teresa's Church, Sign Mills. Interment afterwards in St Joseph's Churchyard, Glenmornan. The Mass can be viewed via the parish webcam. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to Marie Curie Cancer Care, care of any family member. Family time, please, from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. The death has occurred of Lola McDermott, Mina Halla and Main Street, Glentees. Lola's remains will repose at Chauvelin's funeral home, Sandfield Ardra, from 4:30 until 7 o'clock this evening, followed by removal to St Connell's Church, Glentees, for 7:30 to repose overnight. Funeral Mass tomorrow morning at 11 with burial afterwards in the local cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. The death has taken place of Michael McLaughlin, Glen Crow, Moville. Michael's remains are reposing at his home, with funeral from there at 10:30 tomorrow morning for 11 o'clock funeral Mass in St Pius X Church, Moville, followed by interment in Ballybrack Graveyard. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on movilleparish.com. Family flowers only, please. Donations if desired to the Alzheimer's Association of Ireland. Family time, please, from 9 o'clock tonight. The death has taken place of Edmund Boyle, Portnablad, Dunfanaghy, formerly of Creasla. Funeral Mass in Holy Cross Church, Dunfanaghy, this morning at 11. Burial afterwards in Doe Graveyard, Creasla. The funeral Mass can be viewed live on MCN Media. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Lake House Comfort Fund, care of any family member or James Harkin, Funeral Director. The death has taken place of Margaret Mulhern, née McDade, Copeland Fold, Donaghadee, formerly of Dunnamana, reposing at her brother John McDade's home at 42 Ernie Road, Strabane. Funeral from there this morning at 11:10 for Requiem Mass in St Patrick's Church, Kilena, Dunnamana at 12 noon, followed by cremation in Lakelands Crematorium, Cavan. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via Donaghadee Parish YouTube channel. The death has occurred of Jim Medlin, 8 Mournbeg Road, Dartons, Castlederg, reposing at his late residence. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 11:30 for Requiem Mass at 12 noon in St Patrick's Church, Castlederg, followed by interment in St Patrick's Churchyard, Ahiarn. The Mass can be viewed via the parish webcam. No flowers, please. Donations if desired to Marie Curie Cancer Care, care of Charles Lynch, Funeral Director. Family time, please, from 10 p.m. House strictly private, please, on the morning of the funeral. The death has occurred of Jeremiah Jerry O'Sullivan, Fasso Road, Belleek, County Fermanagh, formerly of Cullion Boy, Barnesmore, Donegal, and Birmingham, England. Funeral today with 11 o'clock Mass in St Agatha's Church, Clar, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only, please. And the death has occurred of Patrick Breen, 4 Woodlawn, Stranorlar. His remains are reposing at the Church of Mary Immaculate, Stranorlar, with Requiem Mass this morning at 11, followed by interment in Drumbo Cemetery. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Is féidir le drogaí áine sa dul a bhaid mar tar bhela éagsúla, ach cuireann siad ar fada steachart agus tú ag tomaint. Is féidir le roinnt drogaí tú bhfuilliú, rud a ágan bhfuil buailán go nionad tú botún.
Cuireann drogaí eile farragur tí bhír don ruistíortha.
Bhín tú ag tomaint ruisciúpaí Má bhín tú ag tomaint faoi cheannach ar drogaí is féidir leis tusa do chuid passionéirí agus daoine eile ar a móthar a chur a míl. Ná tomaint faoi cheannach ar drogaí go brach, ónúdar as umhaváilteocht ar bmhóide. Tour court at rsa.ie.
You're welcome back to the 9 till noon show this Monday. How you're keeping? I hope your morning's going good. And thanks so much for choosing the 9 till noon show here in Highland. A caller says, Fortune favoured a braver Armagh team that moved the ball much quicker and landed 3 booming points from distance in the last 20 minutes, giving the team and supporters a huge lift. In contrast, Galway persisted with a shorter passing game around the fringes and didn't kick it long once to their much vaunted forwards. Must have forgotten that it was a long, hopeful kick that yielded the goal that won them the semi-final against Donegal. Great assessment. Thanks very much for that. Hi, Greg. Could you please put out a wee plea for a black and white collie missing from Letter League? If anyone has seen him in the surrounding area, we have the contact number here. So someone's probably very anxious to get their doggy back. A black and white collie missing from Letter League. Did you spot it? Get in touch with us. We'll pass the number on to you. Mona McSharry went to school in Ballyshannon. I knew there was a strong Ballyshannon connection there, and I know she did certainly some formative training in the leisure centre there. We wish her all the best tonight. Only a silly person wouldn't see this was an attempt to further the trans culture in sport while also sticking two fingers up to Christianity. Where's the evidence if transgenders attending the Greek mythology feast of Dionysus? Okay, that's a view there. Mocking Christianity. Did these people see the show about Bishop Casey last week? Wise up and open your eyes. I understand where you're coming from, but one person's terrible actions, you can't can you condemn an entire religion? If we did that, there'd be no religion of any sort whatsoever. Not lucky to mock, especially religious beliefs, etc., can fall on you or someone belonging to you. Be careful. And an update from our listener. I'm tuned in on Alexa and now picking up Highland Radio. Okay, that's Charlie in Paisley. Thanks, Charlie. Regards to all at Highland Radio and regards to you, Charlie, and all in Paisley. Okay, let's take the bingo numbers.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Monday, July 29th. Playing on a green sheet. Reference number is S11. It's week 31. Today's numbers are 22, 52, 62, 55, 73, 70, 6, 46, 25, and 40. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number, the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland Bingo information at highlandradio.com. Bingo every Monday night at the Halfway House Bingo Burnfoot. Doors open at 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. Snowball is now €2,100 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's the Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
The summer sale is now on at Watson Menswear in Letterkenny, with a big range of 2- and 3-piece suits reduced to half price. Also, a selection of blazers and dress shirts, half price. There's 20% off formal footwear and loads of great bargains in casual clothing and footwear in the summer sale now on at Watson Menswear. Open 7 days a week on Main Street, Letterkenny and at watsonmenswear.com.
In 1975, on the night of his 21st birthday, my uncle Hugh McDade, known to all by his nickname Boogie, travelled from his hometown of Ramelton to a student dance in Milford. His family would never see him alive again. My name is Owen Glacken. This is the story of my uncle, the night he died, and the lingering questions of the manner in which it was handled by the state. This is the story of Boogie's last dance.
Tune in to Highland Radio this Wednesday evening right after the 8 p.m. news for the story of Boogie's last dance.
Okay, the question has been posed. Is the younger generation losing its respect for elderly people? Maya witnessed something that would suggest at least some are. Good morning to you, Maya. Thanks for taking the call today.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Right, so talk to me about what you witnessed. It was on a train from Dublin to Belfast, and I think you were heading on to Derry then. What happened?
Yeah, so I was just heading up on my regular uni journey. So I have to go from Dublin to Belfast to get to Derry. And I got on this train this one particular evening, and I seen a group of men which they weren't necessarily acting bizarre, but I could hear certain noises and things like that which weren't necessarily normal to hear, to see. And I later realised that they were actually deaf, so they were just communicating with each other, and they're also deaf and mute. So obviously that's the thing that is definitely normal. You just kind of have to put it into perspective, of course. But a group of individuals got onto the train, and I only actually seen 4, but I've since been informed that there was 7 of these people. And they tried to move the older men from the seats. So these men would have been in their maybe mid to late 80s, and they didn't understand, of course. These younger individuals had booked their seats and just weren't taking no for an answer. You know, they moved these gentlemen from their seats after a bit of back and forth trying to communicate. And it wasn't necessarily the nicest interaction that I've witnessed.
So the the first group you referenced that were communicating with sign language and what have you, they included older gentlemen. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
I later had a conversation with them. They referred to themselves as an old man shed, but they were all mute and deaf.
Okay, right. And it was another group of 7 who were younger people that took issue to these men taking their seats. Now, I'm not defending anyone's actions, but the second group had booked seats. Their names were quite literally on them.
They were. It was actually a company's name, so these people were actually representing a company.
Oh, right, okay.
So it wasn't necessarily the fact that they had pre-booked the seats. There was 3 more individuals who had actually gone and found a different place to sit, because there was many empty seats. There was actually a table beside me that was completely empty. It just happened that the men had just picked these seats. They didn't necessarily understand how the pre-booking system worked, as they didn't use it. I later explained it to them, but they had not got a clue how it worked at the time.
And the young group, even though they were young, fit, healthy men, they were insistent on moving the older men and were successful in that and took their seats then. What happened to the gentlemen who were forced to move?
So I know the basics of sign language due to a friend which I know in school,
right,
or met previously in school, and her family were deaf and mute, so we all kind of made an effort to get to know the basics of sign language. So I kind of ushered them over and apologized for the actions of the other people. So I let them sit with me. However, one of the older gentlemen didn't feel comfortable taking a seat as he had just had a surgery. So he would have had to get up and down, and he just didn't want to do that in the middle of the carriage. So he stood actually at the end of the carriage for the duration of the journey.
How long was that?
It was, I think he got off about an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes into the journey.
Okay. That was his choice in that instance.
And
what was your takeaway from what you witnessed in your experience, Maya, that sort of, made you want to highlight it?
I thought basically the reason people know about this is I posted it to my TikTok, which is a social media platform. Okay. And I didn't do it straight away, as I kind of needed time to process it and kind of take it from every angle. And I thought it was one of those things that just awareness needed to be raised, because my generation, I think there's a generational gap. There's different beliefs and values, and it leads to different experiences and misunderstandings. And I think somehow we kind of have to voice certain things that happen to educate people and hopefully, change the direction of where we're going and the way that we're communicating.
Also, if those younger guys are lucky to live long lives, they will be those 80-year-old men into the future, and technology and way of doing things might have progressed, and they may not be right across that. It's not nice to hear, a group of older people, the older men shed, I think they called themselves, being booted out of the seats like that. But some might be listening and saying, well, they had the seats booked and they're entitled to the seats. But it doesn't sit easy with me, Maya. I'm not going to be. I think me and you are of the same view in relation to this.
I also think there's like a technological divide. The older generation, they struggle to adapt to the way our technology has evolved, and it's not that they just want to disrespect it. It's they're really just struggling to adapt, and I think that disconnects with the younger generation then, because sooner or later we will be that older generation a bit inept to the technological changes. But I think we kind of really have to look at it that way, because you can't always take it that people are doing it for that certain reason.
One other thing, it's not to in any way dilute your important point. You regularly travel from Dublin to Derry via train, do you? Is that your preferred commute between the two cities?
I do. So I actually travel from my hometown to Dublin, Dublin to Belfast, and Belfast to Derry. It's just the easiest. I think it's the most comfortable way to commute, as I don't actually drive at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's quite a long journey, but it's probably the easiest way to go.
I was going to ask, how long is it if everything goes to plan for you?
Going to plan with stops and changeovers, it could take anywhere from 7 to 8 hours.
Right. That's a long journey, but I take your point. It works for you. All right, Maya, listen, thank you very much for that. A few people actually saw your TikTok and are praising the points that you made and think that the company should be forced to apologise. We haven't mentioned the company, but apparently they're well known.
I actually have been in contact with the company since, and I've been informed that a certain individual who actually, after the men had moved, kept going on about it and was voicing their opinion quite loudly on the carriage, which of course the men couldn't hear, but everybody else could.
Yeah.
And I've been informed that it wasn't too long after that this person had actually been removed from the company due to other interactions and things that happened. And the company reached out and did apologise to me and did quite frankly state that wasn't what they stood for.
And
so
also, Maya, too, it is, I mean, obviously, when we're employed by a company, we're always representing them, but this is more of a reflection perhaps on a generation or some parts of that generation than it is on a company. But I take the company. It's good that they've responded to you in the way that they have. Thanks very much, Maya. I appreciate your time. Take care of yourself.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care. What's your experience been? Maybe you're an older person. My experience is that I'd be very fond of the younger generation and, very proud of them. I see an awful lot of good in the overwhelming majority of them. But this is maybe guys in their 20s and 30s who perhaps should know better. Have you any experience of that or any insight into that? Let us know. 086 60 25,000. That's the WhatsApp and text number. Or give us a call on 074 91 25,000. 074 91 25,000. And don't forget, you can email as well. Comments at highlandradio.com. That is the email. And we appreciate all of you contacting us. Right, I thought yesterday's All-Ireland final was terrible. The two teams were not willing to open up the ball. It was so boring. When Dublin or Kerry play, it's far more exciting. Kerry weren't too exciting the last time they were out, but anyway. I went to Donegal Town yesterday. Traffic is terrible. I know people who go to Buncrana to shop due to the traffic in Letterkenny. It took me 40 minutes to go through Donegal Town. I've been into Donegal Town quite a few times. I've seen traffic delays there that I've never seen at all. There was a queue going into Donegal Town and the traffic was backed out pretty much to the roundabout there at McIntyre's. This new road layout, I couldn't understand why they did it right from the very beginning, and it seems to make Donegal Town the type of place you kind of want to avoid. Not good. If you're down around that area or travel through it and you want to talk of the traffic, please get in touch with us. Martin McDermott, Councillor Martin McDermott, is chair of the Defective Blocks Committee, is with me now. Hi, Martin.
Good morning, Greg.
Good to have you with us. Right, remediation options available within IS 465 are well out of date. What is the story here? What do we need to be highlighting?
Yeah, well, there was a motion that we had down at council last Monday. And Greg, as we know, IS 465 was put together back in 2017. It came into effect in 2019. At that time, when it was put together, the science that we have today, we didn't have then. I suppose predominantly around the mica and the freeze thaw, which was, it was sort of built around freeze thaw. But now it's clear that there's a lot of other deleterious materials that are included in the defective concrete blocks, and we urgently need that IS 465 updated because it is causing lots of problems for homeowners, and I would say lots of problems for the housing agency as well when they're making determinations on applicants, because the science that we need and the parameters we need and the exact figures that we need around the levels of deleterious materials, the levels of mica and the levels of pyrite, all those, they need that needs to be updated so that remediation options that are coming out, because like some of the remediation options that have coming to people at the minute and people that are on to me just don't make sense to me, Greg, to be quite honest. There's a house here in Malin where it's a 2-story house, bison slabs, and it's been given an option 3, which is demolish of the 2 outside blocks down to dam course level, leaving the blocks from dam course to foundation, so leaving the rising walls. Those rising walls are from the same supplier as the house blocks that have been bought from. So those types of options to me, after what we've been through here, just don't stack up.
And also, too, I presume the internal walls are built of the same materials as well, and a lot of weight-bearing responsibility within that.
Absolutely, and the other big problem as well with those types of options is it's very difficult to get a contractor to go on the likes of an option 3, where you have to prop up bison slabs in a house and try and take down the outside walls. It's near impossible to get a contractor to do that type of work, because and it becomes even more costly than a demolish and rebuild of that house. And we're talking again, the amount of money that has been allocated to that type of an option 3 is like 380,000. For 20,000 more, that applicant would be getting an option 1. So from a financial point of view and a cost saving point of view, I don't see any cost savings here, because that applicant then has to get a 20 years or a 40-year state-back guarantee on top of that.
The thing about it, though, is, Martin, and I know the Taoiseach says that the Attorney General's advice back then was just advice, and no one elects a lawyer to make these decisions or whatever it might be. But when you read his some of his commentary that the Ditch published about effectively making it so complicated that it doesn't encourage people to actually apply for the scheme or limits the numbers, and also to design it in such a way that people will go for the least expensive option. It's and then you see also too the housing agency now, their engineers sort of rejecting engineers' recommendations for full demolition. It does make you wonder if it's by design rather than accident that it is made so convoluted, so complicated. And also, Martin, we both know it doesn't make any sense. You've said that yourself. It makes no sense. So where's the argument in favour of it? Do you know what I mean? It does make you feel that it has been designed this way.
Yeah, look, I mean, the AS 465, I suppose what the housing agency engineers are working to is a standard that is far out of date. And I suppose they have to work to the parameters of that standard as it stands at the minute. That's why, to me, one of the vital parts of making this scheme work at the minute is getting the AS 465 updated. And removing, in my opinion, a number of the remediation options that are in that are being offered at the minute, because I don't think there's a few of them that just don't stack up. So I think that's something that we really have to get an answer on. We really have to get, before the end of this year, at the very, very latest, that IS 465, even it was, even the National Standards Authority came out and give an update to it, even a temporary update that would allow engineers to make decisions with deleterious materials, like what happened back a year and a half ago when the council, and I mean, at the time, the council made a stance for 9 months that they weren't, making recommendations on houses because they felt that at that time, the senior engineer felt at that time that the standard was there, it wasn't appropriate, and they wanted clearance to allow them to take into consideration all the deleterious materials, which did happen, which did get a lot of applications over the line that wouldn't have got over the line.
Okay. What is the situation or what's going on? I mean, obviously, you've got access to Minister Charlie McConalogue. He, I presume, has access to information the rest of us do not have in terms of the updating of IS 465 and the timeline, or what indeed might be causing any delays, or maybe you have that information yourself. What's the hold up here?
Yeah, I suppose the hold-up seems to be that, the National Standards Authority, only 6 months ago or 7 months ago, put it out to tender to start this process. I know there are lots of professionals tying into the National Standards Authority at the minute. I think you'd have Professor Dunlop, who was on your programme quite regularly, who knows the scheme inside out and knows the science of this inside out. I think people like that are tying into the National Standards Authority to help get that standard updated. They're saying that it's going to be end of this year, early next year before they have that standard or a recommendation on that standard. But I feel that needs to come a lot sooner than that, because we have too many anomalies at the minute with houses that are being given options that just don't stack up. So I think there needs to be they're not going to stop a temporary standard coming out to allow the housing agency to make decisions until that standard is updated, which could be, Greg, as well as I know, it could be 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. I was contacted over the weekend by a family. I'm not putting you on the spot, and maybe you can come back to me, or maybe it's something you've come across, and that's why I want to mention it to you. And they were given, I think it was an option 3. It's the outer leaf, and maybe the inner leaf as well. But anyway, certainly the outer leaf. And I was sent a video of the owner of the house arrived on the site whilst the work was ongoing. The contractor and all is on site, and they were beginning to build on the rising wall. But the rising wall, both inside the rising wall, both inside and outside of it, was crumbling. Do you know, we've all seen the videos and we've had it in our hands, Martin, whereby the you can literally pick the brick up and it crumbles into dust and dropped on the floor. And I'm not sure if the works is continuing or if they've stalled work. But what can a family do in that situation whereby, of course there's the state guarantee and all that kind of stuff, but they know, and it's evident, and they can see that their house is being rebuilt on blocks that are already failing. Not that they will in the future, but are already failing and losing. So do they let them build on it and then the house fall down again? Or can they stop and then say, look, we've got new information here. Can we be moved to option 1? I mean, what can a family like that do off the top of your head, or if you heard the likes of it?
Yeah, well, that family has an option there. If they're in the process of a build and they find themselves in a situation where they have found something that hasn't been included in the report that has been sent to either the council or the housing agency, they can request the housing agency to come out now, stop the build, come out, and the housing agency will come out and look at that and make a recommendation, and allow them to take out the rising walls, and they will subsidise the cost of that then to that family. Just to be clear, you can't, as the scheme stands, you can't move from a remediation option 2 to 5 to a full demolish. So that you can't move to that option. But certainly, someone that finds themselves finding something that hasn't been included in the report can make contact with the housing agency, and they will come out and they will re-evaluate that situation, and again give them whatever extra money it takes, up into the value of 420,000 to get that remediated. Okay.
Can you ask Councillor McDermott what efforts does he know or anyone know are being made to engage with banks in relation to our mortgages? We're unable to switch mortgage or get top-ups for years whilst awaiting a rebuild. Restoring mortgageable condition should be a centre of this scheme. In my last conversation with Simon Harris, he seemed to reference twice quite pointedly banks working. I must listen back to the interview. But I thought the way he spoke, I thought an announcement was imminent, if you know what I mean. But I've heard nothing since. What is the situation, do you know, of with banks? People trapped in mortgages, can't get top-ups and waiting to rebuild?
Yeah, well, that's a problem for, I suppose, everyone. That's a vast majority of people that are in the scheme. The banks and Federation, they met with the banking focus group. I think that was way back in February. There was to be another meeting with them, and that didn't happen. So, us as a committee and the councillor, my role as defective concrete block chairperson, we're not included in that committee. I think it's something that we should be included in. It's something that I've said to John O'Connor that, you know, our committee should be included in all these meetings that's happening. But I do know that there are a lot of work going on behind the scenes with that group and with well, that group, I suppose, to be fair, Greg, feels, I suppose, at the minute that, you know, what they engaged with the department, with the bank, with the insurance companies, it didn't come to the fruition that they thought it would have come to. I think they were expecting a lot more from the banks than what has actually happened. I think, you know, the banks are an organisation that hasn't stepped up to the market at all in this process. And they're the ones that are, I suppose, getting the best out of this, because, you know, if you have 100,000 or 200,000 owed in a mortgage and your house is worthless, and suddenly your house is back to worth 300,000 or 400,000 again. So the winner is the bank there, but they haven't stepped up to the mark in this. But hopefully, you know, something as Simon Harris, and I heard that interview too on your show, and I think he did kind of make a point that something would happen very shortly on that.
When they bore your house, Martin, do they go? Is it just the outer leaf that's tested, or do they take a sample from the inner leaf as well?
No, they take samples from the outer leaf, they take samples from the inner leaf, and they take samples from the rising wall. So,
just out of interest, then, say if this is by the by, it's just things people say to me, and they're coming to my head now. So even with a government guarantee of 40 years, say then you had your house rebuilt, option, one of the options, just the outer leaf or what have you, or even indeed the option you talk of, inner and outer walls on the rising walls. Like me and you know that if I went to sell that house, then the buyer would want testing. And even though the house would be rebuilt under the scheme, that testing would show the levels of deleterious materials, again, on the inner wall if that was retained, or certainly on the rising wall as well. So, I mean, would anyone actually buy a house, even if it's been repaired and has a 40-year guarantee, when the tests come back that the house does have deleterious materials in it?
Yeah, and that's probably, you know, one of the big valid points that we've been discussing through this scheme over the last period of time. You know, look, the 40-year state-backed guarantee gives us probably, you know, a cushion there for anyone that buys that house, that they can come back into the scheme over the next 40
but
years.
I don't, even with a state guarantee, I don't know anyone could knowingly sell a house that contained deleterious materials in it.
Yeah, but that's the big question, Greg, that both the insurance companies, the banks, and the department, and it's the one thing that we've been very clear on through this process: your house has to be mortgageable and sellable. You know, they're the things that who knows. You know, if I fix my house tomorrow morning, and anything can happen in the future that you would have to sell your house. So those are the two big things that has to come out of this, and that again moves on, Greg, to the point that I'm making and why I'm pushing in relation to the IS 465 update. This all ties into that. That is why that we urgently need that IS 465 updated to make this workable.
Yeah, because for lots of people, their safety net is the house. Exactly. It's not, you know, a lot of people can't afford pensions or stuff, and they're saying, right, well, I can leave my house to my kids, or maybe I can sell or downsize my house and move into something smaller when I get older. And, you know, that could be in 30 years' time. How much is one of these houses worth with 10 years left on the state guarantee? You know what I mean? It's you know, it's okay. Listen, thanks very much, Martin. Appreciate it as always. Take care of yourself. Thanks. Councillor Martin McDermott there is chair of the Defective Blocks Committee.
The McElhenney's summer sale has just gotten bigger, with hundreds of new lines up to half price, so grab your favourite brands right now for less. Make your savings go further on sterling cash purchases with a €1.20 rate. Be quick and shop the sale rails this summer at McElhenney's Ballybuffet or online at mcelhenneys.com.
Atlantic Travel. Bonded, licensed and trusted in Ireland. Expert advice on your world adventure. Search for sun, cities or a last-minute escape to sandy shores. Get away this summer with tantalising offers, luxury resorts and family favourites. Free kids places still available. The offers won't last forever, but the memories will. Book now with a trusted travel agent. Atlantic Travel, Letterkenny.
Brian McCormick Sports Summer Sale now on. Official Donegal GAA Kids quarter zips 20% off. Women's Under Armour save 20%. Up to 50% off football boots from Adidas and Puma. Adidas Messi boots only $39.99. BMC Sports Summer Sale.
It's here, it's now, it's Belfast. Come and celebrate our creativity at Ireland's biggest community arts festival, Fela an Phobal. Music will fill the air at Falls Park with an 80s and 90s party on Saturday the 3rd of August. And for country fans, the Whistling Donkeys, Nathan Carter, Rednecks and more will be playing your favourite tunes at Way Out West on August 9th. So come on in and enjoy. Uncover it all at visitbelfast.com.
Firegrates Donegal seeks a welder fabricator for gates, railings and heavy-duty fire grates. Must be millimetre literate, punctual, positive and have excellent people skills. Training provided. Open to all ages willing to learn. Send CVs to firegrates@outlook.com or WhatsApp details to 086 860 2012. Applications closed 10th of August 2024. Bon Appetit Foods is Donegal's largest high-quality, low-calorie, high-protein meals. Also providing traditional dinners, main courses, side orders, soups and sauces. Available in over 200 retailer stores in the northwest of Ireland and nationwide. Bon Appetit is the winner of the 2023 Donegal Foods Coast Award, bringing you quality, convenience and value for money. Bon Appetit, a taste of Donegal.
Northwest Cleaning Services has over 15 years of expertise specialising in carpet and upholstery cleaning in Donegal, offering premium services to keep your carpets looking great and smelling fresh. Call now on 074 932 9827 for a free estimate or visit our website at northwestcleaningservices.ie to book your cleaning appointment.
Irwin Expert Electrical, your trusted destination for all things home appliances, electrical and entertainment in the Northwest. With over 50 years of leading the way, we pride ourselves on offering a diverse range of products under one roof. From top brands like LG, Samsung, Cooker, Bosch, Apple and more, take advantage of our free layaway service where you can store your new items until you're ready for them. Perfect for renovations and new build projects. Visit Irwin Expert Electrical today in Letterkenny or Buncrana.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by McElhinney's. Make your sterling go further with our new cash sales exchange rate at €1.20 for every £1 spent in store. No matter the weather, visit us in Ballybuffet for all your fashion, beauty, gifting and homeware needs this summer.
All right, it is quite dark out there across this part of the world. Today, though, cloudy with patchy rain and drizzle. Temperatures 16 to 18 degrees and a light to moderate southwest breeze. Bob Flavin is a motoring journalist and joins us on the programme now. Bob, how are you?
I'm all right, thanks very much for having me on.
No, it's good to have you on. I really enjoy your videos. I hope you're keeping well.
I'm not so bad. I'm in between appointments. My cancer diagnosis last year has resulted in me needing more surgery this year, but I'm cancer-free at the moment, so I'm quite happy on that.
Good, I'm really pleased to hear that. Now, you've been writing what you labelled yourself an angry rant, and this is... so what I might do is I'll just let you at it, Bob. Tell us what you've been writing about.
So, my problem is with the RSA and generally road safety. We only seem to sort of pay attention to road safety 3 or 4 times a year with some Garda operation this, and there'll be one again on this bank holiday weekend that's on the way in August. So every time we do this, we seem to have an increase in road fatalities. And more generally, road collisions that don't end in fatalities. We don't even talk about them. And what it comes down to is our lack of training. When you get a license in Ireland, a car driving license, you are never tested again. For the rest of your driving career, you get a license at 17 years old, and that's the last time you will ever have a lesson, you will ever have a test, unless you move into HGV or van driving or professional driving. And the other group of people who never get a test are taxi drivers. They never get tested again either. We never even tested if they can drive a car to have a license instead of a very taxi driver test. It's extraordinary to me.
Yeah.
And we don't have any more training.
And Bob, it's also too what we're not, and the phone line is terrible, Bob. What also is tested on, what we don't test on, you've pointed out as well, is never tested on a motorway or even a dual carriageway. I mentioned earlier on, no skid training or heavy braking training. Driving at night, how do you drive in frost? What gears do you use in snow? All the stuff that can be problematic, we probably should be doing more, I think, to educate people in those areas, Bob. I don't know what you think.
I mean, absolutely. We need a revolutionary change in the way we teach driving and the way we update skills. On top of all those motorway driving and any other driving there is that we don't do now, we also need to review every 10 years. You have to get a new license. But you never ask, are you still able to drive? You just automatically renew your license. It makes no sense. There should be another test, another update in skills.
Yeah, it's a lot of common sense stuff. And you'd wonder, Bob, why a lot of this stuff is... I mean, like, sitting a test every 10 years, I don't know, because I'd have to do that. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of it, but I can see the logic to it. But also, too, some of the punishments for really quite serious, and you've alluded to this, really quite serious driving offences, maybe at least some of that should be to trigger resitting your test again once you become legal, once your suspension has elapsed.
I mean, that's a massive one for me as well. If you pick up 3 penalty points because you're 1 or 2 or 3 kilometres over the speed limit, you carry them for 3 whole years. And there's no way of reducing that time. So you can't go and do a speed awareness course or some other course that will reduce your penalty points. So if in the 3 years you stray over that, or you fail an NCT, or you don't wear your seatbelt, or any more things happen, you now have 6 penalty points, which now drives your insurance up. Now, I'm not saying that you should get away with any of that. But we don't have an alternative. We only have this kind of punishment of a whip and stick. Yeah. So you hit them with 3 penalty points, and that's it. You're stuck with them for 3 years.
Yeah.
And yes, there are learners out there. A learner driver or a novice driver can only carry 6 points before they lose their license.
All right, Bob, listen, thanks for that. Great points well made. I do appreciate your time. Take care of yourself. That's motoring journalist Bob Flavin there. Dominic Brophy is a director of the Professional Driving Instructors Association, and he joins us now. We read a little earlier on of some of the suggestions the association is calling for. In fact, it's a massive overhaul to learner driver training in an effort to prevent road deaths. Dominic, the education, we're seeing an awful lot of advertisement and an awful lot of money being thrown at stuff at the moment from the RSA. I think one thing we can conclude, I'm not saying we shouldn't continue with education, but education in and of itself is not going to fix this problem that we have in this country.
Well, not on its own, education won't fix the problem, but it will go a long way to helping to fix the problem. There are other problems on the roads, and there is a review going on at the moment about bringing down speed limits on certain roads. And that's welcome. But what we are saying at the PDIA, the Professional Driving Instructors Association, is that we need to have a root and branch review of how we implement and what we offer our learner drivers when they take to the roads for the first time. And we believe that the syllabus that's in place at the moment is flawed. It was flawed when it was introduced in 2011, and 13 years later, it's still flawed.
One of the suggestions is a tripling of the amount of lessons one must take before they can sit their driving licence. A lot of your members, Dominic, are they sort of after the 12 lessons or so have the 12 mandatory and maybe any other lessons have concluded? Do you feel your members are sort of saying, oh, that fellow or that girl's shouldn't be driving?
Yes. At the moment, the syllabus that's in place and what's recommended by the Department of Transport and the RSA is that you're required to do 12 obligatory EDT lessons. They're called Essential Driver Training Lessons. But in between each EDT lesson, you're meant to do 3 hours of practice, and that can be done with a sponsor or with a driving instructor. But these sponsor hours are only recommended And this is the problem. If you recommend to the general public that they have to do something and it costs them money to do that, to fulfill that recommendation, then they just won't follow through on that. There is a minority that will, that are diligent and realistic about the dangers of the road and the responsibility that they have on the road. But unfortunately, the majority just wants to get the 12 EDT lessons done and out of the way. And then they're caught in a vacuum of waiting up to a year to sit a driving test. And whilst they're doing that, they're picking up bad habits from their sponsor, who is usually a parent or a sibling, and they're passing on their bad habits with good intentions, but they are passing on their bad habits. So the ED or the learning to drive syllabus, 75% of that is with a sponsor, and only 25% is with the professional. And what we're saying is that has to be flipped around, and the early stages of learning how to drive is crucial, and that should only be done with the professional.
You also suggest that refresher lessons should have to take place before a license renewal.
Yes, and we think it's a good idea, because what we're saying is that when your full license comes up for renewal after 10 years, we think that it should be obligatory for each person to sit a 2-hour driving lesson. It's not much in 10 years, every 10 years, to sit a 2-hour driving lesson, and this would be a friendly assessment, and it can be a life-saving assessment, where I can sit with somebody that's been driving for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and point out things that they're doing wrong that are dangerous. You're going through these housing estates too fast, or, you're not controlling your car coming into roundabouts correctly, or whatever it might be. And this will be a help to, it's not enough for us to teach somebody how to drive at 17 years of age and then leave them alone all the way up to their age.
And also the way it is at the moment, people, certainly a lot of people just do the 12 mandatories and then wait for their driving test. And I know of people that have failed it 3 or 4 times and sat 3 or 4 tests in short shrift. Till they get it right, if you know what I mean, or till the traffic works out well that their faults aren't exploited or shown. You believe that if you fail, you should have to do more lessons. How many?
We would recommend that they have an assessment, first of all, with their driving instructor. But first of all, they got to speak to their driving instructor correctly and honestly before they apply for their driving test. I meet some people on their first lesson and they've never turned the ignition on a car, and they're already asking me about the driving test. And my reply to that is, let's not talk about driving tests yet. Let's talk about getting you safe on the road. The driving test comes in its own time. But we live in a technology era where everything has become faster and everything is more accessible in a quicker fashion. But driving is not like that. You need to put time into it. You've got a responsibility to yourself, and you've got a responsibility to every other road user. And you've got to keep yourself safe, and you can't do it on the cheap. Now, these people that are failing their tests 2, 3, 4 times, it's because they haven't put the hours in the beginning, and it becomes more expensive for them.
Now,
they're paying for driving tests over and over.
Dominic, I'm not questioning the association's motives, don't get me wrong, but when you look down through the 12 suggestions, a lot of it is about, less testing for the driving instructors and replaced with, training. So I get that, right? So the time is just being used in a different way. But also, more lessons being required, which obviously means more income for your the members of your association. I'm saying this to you now in case people text that in, Dominic, when you're off air. So, what do you say that this really looks like? What would you say if someone says this kind of looks really more like just trying to drive more work to your association's association's members?
Well, what I would say to that is it's a fair point, and it's an obvious point to make. And of course, somebody listening to me this morning might say, well, of course, what else is he going to say? He represents driving instructors. Of course he's going to say that, but that's not our motives. We're busy at the moment. I'm a working driving instructor myself. I'm busy. I'm not looking for extra work. What I'm looking for is extra time with the people that I meet when they're 17 or 18 years of age, and I build up a relationship with them, and I build up a relationship with both their parents or one of their parents, and I grow to like them, and I want to keep them safe.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear them saying to me after 12 hours, okay, Dominic, I'll give you a ring in 6 months' time when my test comes up. Because what I say is, please continue on with your driving lessons. I showed my diary. Look, I'm not trying to make money out of you. I'm busy. I'm very busy.
For sure. And
but
it can't be...
I want to keep you...
It can't be easy too, is if, and I'm sure it's happened, if a driving instructor, the 12 mandatory lessons are done, and they feel that the person isn't necessarily up to scratch, but what can they do? They aren't the police or the guards. And then you find out later that, you know, that individual was involved in a road traffic collision. You know what I mean? If you were a member of your association or involved in teaching people to drive, that'd be hard. Like, it'd be hard. And
it's one of my biggest professional fears, if you like, to hear that one of my customers has been involved in an accident like that.
Yeah, okay.
When you've urged them to take extra lessons. And compared to international standards, our 12 obligatory EDT lessons is very, very low. Very low compared to other countries. And we need to get real about driver education and road safety. And we need to start asking the hard questions. And, you know...
One thing I didn't see in the proposals, though, Dominic, sorry to cut across you, but we're running out of time, is that... I mean, cost is a big factor, especially in rural Ireland. You know, we need cars. We have to be able to travel. You need a car for a job, really. You try and get things done as quick as possible. I mean, have you suggested or looked at the government discounting? I just wonder if a lesson was 20 quid, for an example, if the government made up the balance and they could work that out through tax or whatever it might be, that if people might be more inclined to take more lessons if they were, you know, if you got a voucher or something from government for 5 lessons at a discounted price or something.
Yes, it's an excellent idea. Anything that will help to get people more driving on the road, we're always willing to speak to the government, and we're always willing to speak to the RSA. But unfortunately, neither of them are very keen to speak to us, which I find remarkable. Like, we are the educators on road safety. Hildegard Naughton, I emailed her when she was in the post many times, she never replied. Jack Chambers, emailed him many times, never replied. We have a new junior minister in place now, James Lawless, and I hope that he is more open to communication.
It is bizarre, yeah. It is bizarre that they're not engaging.
The CEO of the RSA, Stan Wade, has been in that post, I think, about 3 years now, and he never replies to our emails.
All right.
It's bizarre. It doesn't happen in other countries. We should be brought into the tent, and we're there to help.
Okay, Dominic.
We're not looking for any. Yeah. Sorry,
okay, listen. No. Listen, you made your point very well. Thank you very much indeed. Dominic Brophy, Director of the Professional Driving Instructors Association. What say you out there? 086 60 25,000 is the WhatsApp and text number, or give us a call on 074 91 25,000.
At Hickey Clark and Langan Insurance Brokers, they compare quotes from all the leading insurers, so you get a great price. Home, motor and van, farm, holiday home, travel and liability insurance, they quote them all. So if the worst happens, you're covered. For a competitive insurance quote today, call Hickey Clark and Langan on 9126688 or pop into their office at Ballymacool, Letterkenny. Hickey Clark and Langan General Insurances Limited, trading as Hickey Clark and Langan, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
The life of a Charlie's Chip is never dull. Once they're selected, they're off to Charlie's, where they lose that jacket, have a nice wash, and get into shape. Before going out, there's always a few nerves, totally unnecessary, because, let's face it, they always go down well. Enjoy Charlie's Chips to sit in or take away daily from 12 to 8 at Pierce Road, Letterkenny. When the hunger hits, pull into Charlie's.
Come along to the Glencolmkill Agricultural Show on Sunday, 4th of August, featuring cattle, sheep, horses, poultry and all marquee classes. A great family day with children's fun and live music. Entries are now open on glencolmkillagriculturalshow.ie or visit their Facebook page.
Tesco Club Card gives you the power to more. Grill out with 3 for €10 from our Fire Pit range. Spice up your dinner with Old El Paso kits and select a Coke 4 packs, any 2 for €6. And Bella Cucina Prosecco Frizzante was €12, now just €7. Get more from your shop with your Tesco Club Card or app. Shop in-store or online. Tesco. Every little helps. Subject to availability, prices vary in Express stores. Deposit may apply. See tesco.ie. Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
Okay, we're going to be reflecting on yesterday's All-Ireland final with Brendan Devaney shortly. Get your comments and opinions in. But first, let's get a news update. And at 11 o'clock, it's good morning again to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. Donegal County Council is to write to the Housing Minister and National Standards Authority requesting the immediate publication of a new standard to replace the IS 465 that's currently being used to determine remediation options for the defective concrete block scheme. The issue was raised by a number of members at a final plenary meeting before the summer break last week, including Councillor Martin McDermott, the chair of the authority's Defective Concrete Block Committee. He told Greg on the programme that our understanding of the underlying causes of the problem has advanced, but the standards are not being updated quickly enough to keep up to date with the science. 2 paddleboarders drifting out to sea at Bunlin Bar just past the Carrickfad Rocks in Donegal Bay were rescued by Bundoran lifeboats yesterday afternoon. The father of one of the casualties made a call to the Coast Guard after seeing the 2 girls being blown further out to sea. The lifeboat was on scene within 5 minutes and brought the girls safely to Creevy Pier. There are questions surrounding adequate neurology cover at Letterkenny University Hospital. At a recent meeting of the Regional Health Forum West, Councillor Jerry McMonigal outlined the number of patients suffering from MS in the LOH catchment, saying there's enough work for 2 full-time neurology consultants. He was told by senior officials that efforts are being made to recruit neurologists, but it's a process that will take time. Almost half of the population visit their local pharmacy every week. A recent survey of over 2,000 people by the Irish Pharmacy Union found 51% visited a pharmacy in the past 7 days and 88% in the previous month. IPU members are stepping up their campaign for increased payments, saying the amount they're paid for work done on behalf of the state hasn't increased for 16 years. They say they want to do more to help the health service, but will need the support of the Health Minister. And a DUP delegation is to meet with senior PSLI members today after footage emerged of a police car involved in Armagh's All-Ireland celebrations. An internal investigation was launched after a video was shared online showing the car with blue lights and sirens turned on, circling a roundabout before an Armagh flag was waved out the window. And we're back with news headlines again at 12 noon.
Thank you, Donald.
Hiya. I was just reading about that awful crash at the crossroads. It was Kate's son who was killed.
Oh, no.
The roads. So many deaths. Colm, look, I'm not nagging, but I've seen you flying up that road. Please slow down. Imagine it was your death notice.
Ma'am, it's grand.
I don't ever want the Gardaí calling here.
Chat to your loved ones about their unsafe driving today so you don't lose them tomorrow. A message from the Road Safety Authority.
Well, there were joyous scenes in Croke Park, certainly amongst those in orange shirts yesterday, as Armagh, for only the second time in their history, lifted the Sam Maguire. It was heartbreak for Galway, and it's all going to be talked through this evening on the DL debate with Brendan Devaney, and Brendan is with us now. Hi, Brendan. Good morning to you.
Morning, Greg.
Right. Did the best team win on the day?
Yeah, I think so. Like the most organised team, I think. The injuries probably caught up with Galway that bit. Particularly Finnerty going off early doors, and then you just seen that Comer wasn't 100%. He was had no impact in the game. Walsh saying missing his frees. It was still some battle-hardened Galway guys who put in a huge shift. Across the 70-odd minutes, but. You'd have to say Armagh, just defensively, they were set up. And there's real change in nature, I think, in football. And you look at it, Greg, I suppose, the previous years. 18 points last year was actually the lowest term in about 7 years. One up in that time was 20 to 23. And so for 111 to 13, we thought it would get pretty tactical, more like maybe an Ulster Championship game, in fact, because of the way Galway played. And that's how it was played out. But I think Armagh were in control of the game. Certainly going down the stretch, that goal that they conjured up was the big score. And it was maybe a bit similar to Donegal Armagh game. They got the goal and it gave them a wee bit of platform, and then they sat tight on it. In many ways, Galway got done to them in the final. What happened to us in the semi, we just couldn't get that equalising score or get us back into the game at the vital time.
Because also I don't know how aware players are actually on the pitch, but you will, of course, as a former player yourself, especially when you're kept far away from the goals, so to speak. It's being patient, but taking the right opportunity at the right time, because if you mess it up, it could be a turnover, and then a 1 or 2 point deficit can become a 2 or 3 point deficit, and in a way you could be responsible for your own team's downfall. Players, that's how when you're watching it, sometimes how it feels, and I think Donegal were a little bit guilty of that sometimes, and then making the wrong decisions to try and close the gap. Are players conscious of that? Is that in the heat of that moment? Is that what's going on?
I think it all depends on probably the setup of the play. If you look at now how tactical it's got, there's no more the Armagh defensive shape, very like Donegal's in terms of the banks of defence, the way everybody's actually moving, and it takes an enormous amount of work, and it's actually quite, would you believe, Greg, mathematical what's behind all this, in terms of numbers and where you are, trying to cut down the amount of shots created. That will equal then shots under pressure, then it'll reach a low conversion rate. So what both teams are trying to do is actually in half time, it's 5, 6, 7 points. Teams are trying to keep them doing. I was saying all week it's going to be about 6 each at half time. And I was thinking to myself, it's funny how it was just playing out that way that you thought, right, both teams are going to keep it tight, try and cut out the space. Now, it was Galway was probably hitting, at times we're coming a bit faster on the breaks as well. Now, Armagh were trying to vary their game. So when both teams got set in their defensive shape, you see this thing happening now almost we would have seen in foreign sports around plays where you've seen Armagh lifting the ball. And so what they're doing then is they're trying to suck players in and then break wide. So trying to create spaces for a mark or for a ball in. Galway were maybe just trying to come off the shoulder that bit better, and we're moving it. It's very difficult proposition. What you really want, Greg, is to be on the counter attack, and that's where both teams look the most dangerous. And if anything, Armagh, I think got lucky near the end, Greg, particularly the last the ball off the post. I think it was McHugh hit it. That Galway didn't equalise, because at that point Armagh had fallen so far into their shell, a wee bit like you could accuse them in the Ulster final against Donegal, and even in added time, where they're protecting the lead and they're scoring in the break, and they should have scored in the break because the whole pitch was open, but for whatever reason they didn't get that extra score then, and it left them hanging on. But listen, maybe this Armagh team, Greg, was due a bit of luck, because they have had some heartbreak this last number of seasons.
Maybe a stupid question, but when you see periods of a match where there's long periods of possession, is it do you use more energy with the ball or defending, or is it 50-50?
I think once you're set in your shape, it's the opposition team that has the ball is probably expending the most energy, because it's as you try and go down one side and change and go down the other or break through, there's only certain players actually involved in the game. So that was kind of a thing was thrown at Donegal in the semi-final, actually, that because of Galway's shape, that they were falling in their defence. They weren't committing the whole team fully attack and fully back. So that's why a few people were pointing out maybe why Galway had a bit more energy coming down the tracks, is because we were attacking completely as a team and then defending. So even our forwards having to get the whole way back in and then get the whole way up the other end of the pitch, like the amount of energy it takes to do that sometimes can hamper. And that's why you're seeing subs are so important. And if you've seen Campbell come on, was involved. Goal. So it's maybe we didn't get the injection off the bench from our game, but I think that's a huge thing now, Greg, and probably for teams you're trying to marry now between your defensive setup, your ability to break, your tackling one-on-one, but you got to kick the ball a bit as well. And I think if there's one aspect, I think from Donegal's play, we're looking in the next year and you're seeing it, there is a kick pass variation in there. Listen, who am I to tell anybody, but I think it's something when you get to Croke Park that you probably need that wee bit of variation, because we were playing everything through the hands, and you seen yesterday the variation does open things up and it'll cut out a line in the pitch. And maybe then if you have a platform inside, you can play maybe a wee bit different of an orthodox game. But certainly yesterday, as I say, this new pairing was so unusual. I mean, it'd been so many years now we've heard anybody looking for tickets, and I would take I'm half my mum's Galway, obviously I have about 400 cousins down there, and you know people in Armagh, and so the thing went crazy. So it was kind of back to what we remembered All Ireland finals being. Now I know it was a bit low scoring compared to other ones, but there was so much more colour and excitement about it. I think it did the GA world a shot of good in terms of this new pairing in the final, and for the teams that are outside it, they think, listen, there's nothing between us and Armagh. Why can't we get back there next year? And I think a lot of counties will be thinking that.
Yeah, like I watch sport a little bit different, I think, than a lot of people do. Like, yes, I really enjoyed both the first and second half. Just the tactics of it, the tension of it, the nerves. It keeps me going, right? The buzz and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people, though, are saying it was boring and a bad game. Now, I didn't see that, but then in other sports that are like boxing, if it's very technical and tactical and defensive, I kind of see that as part of the sport and enjoy that as well, right? Other people think, ooh, that's a load of rubbish. Was it a good or a bad game from someone who actually knows what they're talking about?
Yeah, no, well, that's debatable, Greg. But listen, I agree with you on that. Now, here's the thing: if you get the sport and you get where the sport is, if you're someone, I think it's a mindset of anything. It's like if you're going into your Monday morning, let's say, and you're like, oh my God, listen, it mightn't be the best of morning. Now, not to say you're going to be all chirpy, but if you approach things in the right way, so if you're analysing a game now, where we're at with these football teams and where modern, there's no point in saying teams aren't going to set up in a defensive shape. So once you accept that, and then you maybe look at the shape and how well drilled they are, maybe you appreciate what's going on in the background and what's at stake and what the lads is putting in. If you change your mindset on how you're looking at it now, if anybody now looks at hurling and looks at football, listen, there's no point in comparison the two games. Sports, and they're the hurling's so open and it's just a different world. But football will evolve, Greg. There will be new rules coming in, but in between time, I agree with you. I actually still find it fascinating.
You see, I've been watching the off the ball runs and stuff. Do you know what I mean? That's like exactly. I love it when there's a nice wide camera.
How you break it down. The fact that if you look at how Armagh are trying to set up plays and how Galway were working the space off the angles, working the space. I'm like you. I find that fascinating how one team is going to try and get in the round. And then you'll see some brilliant scores. So you had some top drawer distance kicking yesterday, which lights it up for me. And you're right, I still really, really enjoyed the game. I mean, it was so tense. I mean, whatever it is about football, there was no way Kieran McGinney was going to enjoy a 3-point lead coming in this and go, let's enjoy the last few minutes. It was end to end. It was posts. It was everything. Yeah. There was the potential was there. And I think while that potential's there, not like some of the other games we see, when the drama's there, to me, it's exciting there.
Any team could have won that. Either team could have won that in the final stage. It's just 2 or 3 different things would have to happen. It was so evenly contested. You'd have a bit of knowledge of a few of the participants in there in your time playing with Ireland, Brendan.
Yeah, well, listen, I've played twice, two, one home and one away with Joyce and McGeady. Yeah, I've got to know the lads quite well, as you do when you're away for a month like that. Whether you want to or not, it's you can't avoid each other.
But you have to, yeah.
But you know what? It's not even like that. It's only a matter either you get on well with somebody on a tour or very well, because lads around football teams and that they're all they're all there. We're all kind of in the one boat in terms of there's always people are very positive. So either you've got big personalities or people they're more like some one-on-one chats and that. But the two guys were great. I mean, Joyce, I would liken them there. Greg, there's not many Irish people you call cool. Joyce could have rolled up in the Harley with the Fawns with a leather jacket on. You remember the Fawns? Most of your listeners might remember him. Joyce was like that. Very cool character, unbelievable footballer. And Kieran, such a nice, engaging guy. And I had a great chat to him after the Derry game. I was uncovering it when they come back after Ulster final beat Derry. And we had a good talk for about 15 minutes outside the dressing room, just about where Armagh was. And I was saying to him, you're very unlucky, obviously, and how it's written then in the victors that, you lose in penalties again, and Armagh this and question marks. And I thought Armagh had all the ingredients. And we were talking about it that day, that innings bust. There's great, nobody you can't beat. And he was like, listen, we have a great bunch here, blah, blah, blah. No, I wasn't thinking we were going to win All Ireland. But we had such a good talk. And I would say, listen, I can get Kieran on the show next week. Hopefully we'll get a chat to him. I'll not bother him today for this evening show, but he'll come on next week and give us a few words. And it'll be interesting to get his whole take on how it went from there. Because I texted him actually out on the semi-finals when we were heading to Croke Park, just to say they obviously were in the final. So we swapped a few texts in about coming down to watch us. And I was saying, well, listen, we'll not be friendly after this. But of course, we lost out to the Galway men. But so hopefully we'll get a chance with Kieran in the show next week.
And also, too, we kind of harp on as if everything was always better in the past and different, Ulster teams are destroying the sport and all this kind of stuff. 2015, All-Ireland final, Dublin v Kerry, the two big boys. Dublin 12 points, Kerry 9 points.
Yeah, that was the one outlier in that whole situation. Yeah, where things went very tactical. I think just if you look at it, Greg, that was 2014, so that actually was our fault as well. That's
2015. No, that's 2015.
Yeah, but I'm saying you can trace that.
Oh,
back
yes,
to
I get you. Right, okay.
Because we did this all in competition, outscored everybody, blaze everybody. Dublin team. Jim Gavin says we'll stick to our principles. Look like they're going to win 8 in a row or whatever. Donegal do them in the semi-final, and Dublin go sheer tactical.
Yeah.
And then Kerry responded, and what you had was that game was dragged into tech. Now, if you look at from then, Dublin kind of married it and got it, but that was the year where Donegal had taught them a lesson the year before. So it was interesting you pulled that out, Greg.
All right. So who's on the show tonight? Obviously, you're going to have some Galway and Armagh voices along with yours. Who's on?
Yeah, Sean O'Dupuy, former All-Ireland winner. You would have seen was up for the match. Does quite a bit with TG Carr. Lovely fella. He actually was on that tour of 2001 as well. So I'm pulling on all the old buddies, Greg. We have on Aaron Kiernan as well. I was talking to him last night. He was in Mary form at the Carrickdale. Lovely picture of him and his kids there. He sent at the game close to tears and that. So much emotion from Armagh. Of course, the Jarlath Burns story with Charlie Oak. I mean, you couldn't write the script for that. Absolutely amazing. So Aaron Kiernan's on along with Sean O'Dupuy, and then we'll get a bit of round up the year from Michael McMullen of Gaelic Life just on the season of us.
It's all setting up for a very interesting championship for next year.
Definitely.
Because at the end of the day, I know Dublin have won a lot. Kerry are pretty successful as well. They're not going to sort of want to lie down and just become to be, drawn back into the pack a little bit. I mean, I just think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where we're at. It's going to be interesting to see where Derry's going to be at. Tyrone, Armagh. Will they have a sort of? Will the second album be a load of crap? you know what I mean? There's an awful lot of stories that you can pick out there already. All right, Brent, the show's on tonight just after 7:00, and people can podcast it when they're out for a walk tomorrow or exercising or whatever they might be doing. But for now, thank you so much, Brent.
Hey, I might be in Downlands later, my man. If you're down, if you're a skinny laddie or whatever you fancy, boys.
Okay. What time are you going to be down?
Yeah, I'll probably be down about.
Are you bringing the boat?
2:00ish.
Are you bringing the boat?
No. Well, listen. Maybe you could show me the water.
I can't.
Is it as dangerous as Gweedore? Because Gweedore's a dangerous spot.
No. In fairness,
I'm still bumping on the sandbanks and what have you.
I can just imagine you sitting on the sandbank. Who do you call in that situation?
I was close. I was close the last day. I was on the lower tide. I had to get back in to cook the kids their food from Gola.
The good thing about.
I was chugging and nearly got marooned.
No, the good thing about Downings and a few other places, there's a lot of water even at low tides. So, all right, Bren, listen, see you later. We'll see what the story is with that. I might have to go to the bog, but we'll see. All right, listen, thanks very much, Bren. Right, take care of yourself, buddy. 08660 25,000 WhatsApps and texts 07491 25,000. Good morning, Greg. Let me see. There was a couple on the football. Was there a lot of one coming in on the roads? What I'll do is I'll take this break and I'll sort through them so I'm not skipping from one to other. And thank you, by the way, for all of your messages.
The attic, the extension on the extension, the good sitting room, the naughty step, the morally ambiguous lounge, various nooks, assorted crannies, under the bed with the monsters. Play in every part of every room with the Wi-Fi guarantee from Virgin Media. It's playtime.
Subject to availability, the Wi-Fi guarantee service can be added for €5 extra a month and a minimum speed of 30 megabytes in every room using our smart Wi-Fi pods. Terms and conditions apply. See virginmedia.ie.
Don't miss the 55th Clonmany Festival's open-air concerts, including Mike Denver on Tuesday 6th of August and on Wednesday 7th at Steric Ryan. Don't miss these and many more open-air concerts at this year's Clonmany Festival, Sunday 4th to Sunday 11th of August. For full programme, check out clonmanyfestival.com. This ad is sponsored by Joyce's Centre, Clonmany.
I've been surfing all morning at FlemingLTD.com to find out about Fleming Doors, Fleming Steel and Fleming Coatings and their full range of products. So come surfing with me at FlemingLTD.com. Fleming, 91 48 234.
Check out SuperValue's Real Rewards prices. Scan your card or app and get Persil, Ariel and Bold 38 to 60 wash selected range, 2 for €18. And Pepsi and 7-Up 2 litre range, 2 for €3. Plus, save even more with weekly vouchers on the Real Rewards app. Make real savings every week at SuperValue. DRS applies.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
It's 20 past 11. Welcome back to the show. Our Monday focus for today is taking a look at Letterkenny Pride. It runs from Tuesday, July 30th until Saturday, August 3rd. We're joined in studio by Pádraig Havlin. Is that correct, Havlin? Is it?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, brilliant. It's joined up writing, and people should know me at this stage that I'm not great with joined up writing. You are the marketing officer for Letterkenny Pride 24, and also committee member Aisling Jarvis. Aisling, thanks so much for joining us as well.
Thanks for having us.
Good to have you in. Right, okay. Tell us about what's coming up. I'll start with you, Pádraig.
Delighted to. Yeah, we have a jam-packed programme for Letterkenny Pride this year. Last year, you might remember, it was one day. So now we have 5 days of events throughout the week. We're kind of mixing between educational events and more kind of jovial fun stuff. So Tuesday, tomorrow evening, we have a very special Broadway boogie with LK Fitness. And that's going to be followed up by a special mouthpiece of open mic night at the Cottage Bar. Then on Wednesday, I think one of the most exciting events that we have is an event hosted by Chris Cannon, who people might know from Netflix's Glow Up series. He is an amazingly talented makeup artist, and he is going to be hosting a session called Be Your Own Beautiful, which is a makeup demonstration for the trans community. So he's going to be teaching our trans siblings and also makeup artists how best to apply makeup to make yourself feel beautiful in your own kind of gender expression. That's going to be followed up by a comedy night in the Brewery Bar. And then on Thursday, we have an LGBTQIA plus awareness evening in Backstage Bar and Grill, hosted by a really great speaker called James McGoldrick. And then we have a singles night, which is in Sister Sarah's. And that's going to be just a fun night for everybody to kind of ease into the weekend.
You have to be single.
I mean, you don't. You can come and dance and have some cocktails. And
all right, no.
We're a broad church.
I was kind of really throwing that out to the listeners, but hey, cocktails and dancing sounds fun too.
Absolutely. Friday evening, we have a panel discussion in the Regional Cultural Centre.
And what's that about?
That is really about the history of the LGBTQ plus experience, I would say.
Because it's an evolving history.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not like there's a start and a finish point. Well, it's like everything, but I think particularly in this area.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways we're still in that history. Okay, so it's kind of evolving. So we're also looking at the future. What does the future hold for the LGBTQ plus community?
I think it is. I think we're still in sort of there's flux there in how everyone sort of gets on with each other, lives with each other, accepts each other. You know that's there's an ebb and flow on that at the moment. I don't know where we are in all of that, but. It's an evolving conversation, even though it's in relation to the history.
Yeah, and as you just said there about how we kind of all support each other. Really, we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? So you've got people like David Norris, if you look at the Irish history, and like looking at the impact of those individuals to help on how they helped us get where we are, and how we can actually have an event like Letterkenny Pride.
Yeah, and the theme of it, celebrating diversity and inclusion, Aisling. What I think anything, it's open to a person's own interpretation and what they want it to mean for them, all right? But what is it? And we've heard the programme and you can see how it's set up to do that. But why is it important, that theme this year, do you think?
I think that just last year we had a massive celebration and it was really, really important to do that for our first year. And I think this year we wanted it to be a bit more kind of educational and a bit more informative. And I think celebrating diversity and inclusion does that, you know.
Yeah, you'd agree with that, I'm sure, Pádraig.
Absolutely, and if you look at how the town is evolving as well, it's always becoming more diverse. We've always been welcoming to different people from all over the world. So it's a perfect evening to celebrate that as well.
And is it specifically for members of the LGBTQ plus community, or for allies as well, or for anyone, or I don't know how you'd frame it like that, Ashley?
No, we encourage allies. We very much love the support of allies, and it's for everyone. I mean, last year down at the theatre, we were so blown away by the amount of young families and kind of like just people who had family members in the LGBTQ plus community that wanted to come out and support them and show their colours for the people they love. And that's what it is about, really.
Yeah, okay. So, tickets available for everything. I imagine Chris Cannon's going to be incredibly popular. What's the venue there?
That's going to be
at space there.
Yeah, that's going to be at Be Perfect in Letterkenny Shopping Centre. There are tickets available for that. It's very limited, so we encourage people to sign up for that, and they can find the links for all of the events on our socials.
Yeah, and the panel discussion, that is in the Regional Cultural Centre, Letterkenny, €15. The tickets off there.
That's actually, sorry, that we revised that after that, and so the tickets for that,
or anything,
the tickets for that are actually €5.
So I've just saved everyone a tenner.
Yeah,
I'll take the credit for it. No,
yeah, exactly. So and then you can use that extra €10 to buy a T-shirt or something,
or a
on
cocktail.
Saturday.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that event, the singles night's Friday, did you say? Sorry.
It's on the Thursday.
That's on the Thursday.
And then we have drag bingo on the Friday night after the panel discussion.
Which was very popular last year. So we've made it its own event this year because it was just absolutely jam-packed last year, people trying to get in. So that's in the Orchard on Friday.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun.
Focuses on fun.
And then we dive into Saturday, and we've just got a full day of fun on Saturday. There's going to be a brunch before the main event down in it's the drag brunch is in the warehouse. And then we have lots of activity down at the theatre. It's really a family fun day down there, followed by the parade, which is going to move from the theatre up the main street and down towards Charlie's Cafe. And then we have music in our partner venues.
Yeah.
Aisling knows all about this, so I'm going to let her talk about that.
Well, we've got 5 venues across the town that are hosting music. We've got Moya Brennan and McGinley's. The Henry Girls are playing in McGinley's as well. We've got Shearbuzz are headlining the gig in Voodoo. In the Cottage, we've got Eve Bell and Lara Bell headlining in there. And then we've got, the Brewery. There's Row, which is really exciting, is headlining in the Brewery. And then we've got a gig rig up at the Orchard.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the likes of Cherem and Elsha, and there's going to be a Lady Gaga tribute act as well on the gig rig, which is going to be really fun.
Yeah, that sounds great. A lot of good music.
A lot of good music.
Is that over different nights, or is that all?
That's all on the Saturday.
All on the Saturday.
Yeah, it's all on the Saturday.
I don't want to do a disservice, so I'm just not saying days anymore. I'm going to leave that to you, right? Okay, that's fantastic. Right, so if people want more information, in other words, to check out all we've been talking about and sort of pick out what they want to do and where they want to go, where's that, Aisling?
You can find everything on our socials. We're on Facebook and Instagram, and
I presume that's Letterkenny Pride.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant stuff.
And yeah, basically all the information it's going to be either already been posted or we'll be posting it this coming week.
Okay.
So you find all that information.
Anything else you want to mention before we wrap up?
I would just like to say a massive thank you to the Donegal Volunteer Centre. Anybody who runs an event in Donegal knows how important they are. And volunteering is always a fun thing to do. It's always good for you as well. Our sponsors, we've got loads, so many that we can't really mention them all, but really our partner venues as well, which Aisling's just mentioned.
And of course, as you scale things up, the level of organisation and cooperation that's required goes up with that as well. So it's a big jump, isn't it, from last year to this year?
Yeah.
In terms of what you have to offer and all that kind of stuff, which is good.
Absolutely.
All right. Listen, thank you. Did you want to add something?
No.
All right, listen, Aisling Jarvis, thank you very much indeed. Porg Havlin, thank you.
Thank you
and
very
have
much.
fun.
We will.
All right,
You
take
too.
care of yourselves.
Hope you get to
Thank you
enjoy
very
yourself.
much.
Back after these.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
You know that guy I've been seeing?
Yeah?
Turns out my sister's been seeing him too.
Oh, really?
And I heard he's been seeing Siobhan at number 56. And Declan.
Your brother?
Yep.
Specsavers opticians and audiologists own their stores, so your care is their business, which can make them rather popular.
I've got something to tell you. I've got half an hour with them this afternoon.
Specsavers, your care is our business.
Raymond Sweeney here to introduce you to heat pump tumble dryers. With these dryers you can save up to 50% on energy use, enjoy softer clothes, and thanks to advanced sensor drying technology, you will have wrinkle-free laundry every time. Upgrade your drying experience today with a heat pump tumble dryer, now available at Ben Sweeney Euronics, Port Road, Letterkenny, or the shopping centre Dunlow.
Every day's an exciting adventure with the National Trust. Spend summer exploring magnificent mansions, glorious gardens, tree-lined trails and riverside rambles. Hop into the wildlife heptathlon at Mount Stewart or walk the plank by the River Blackwater at the Argery. Pick up pond dipping kits at Florence Court. Take aim at archery at Castle Ward or try lazy lawn games at Rowan Garden. With lots of
"Can we come again?"
on the way home. Search National Trust NI to find out more. National Trust, for everyone, forever.
Big Band Country Nights continue at Logues of Cranford this Tuesday with David James and his band. That's another Big Band Country Night this Tuesday with David James at Logues of Cranford, where you'll also find music in the Wee Bar on Saturdays and old-time dancing on Sundays.
Okay, let's see. I want to go to Charles now. Hi, Charles.
How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing all right, Charles. We're talking about, road safety and I think it's a good thing that we're talking about it, but unfortunately it's off the back of another tragic weekend around our beautiful country. But what's your point, Charles?
Well, I was talking to the people and getting through to the people, Greg. They can put all these rules and regulations that they want on the roads. But I'm on the road every day.
Yeah.
And I save actions days by looking at people, watching people, and I drive a lorry, and I have been talking to a few different lorry men, and the problems on the road is you have to learn the people manners and take their time. That's the biggest problem on the road. Everybody's in a hurry to get from A to B. And you got the road, then they're sitting at the petrol pumps, maybe they wander down and chatting to the man next to them or something like that.
That's so true, yeah.
Nobody wants to be behind a lorry. Nobody wants to be behind a tractor. And that's the biggest problem on the road. And on such times as that man was on talking to you, and he was on talking there too about learning people bad habits, one thing or another. There was 9 people was reared in my house at home, and there were 7 of us drove.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, we were all learned by our father, or our other brother, or whatever the story was.
Mm-hmm.
And not one of us had a bad accident, but we were learned manners on the road and courtesy. And you can put all the rules and regulations you like in place, and it's not about odds. Money you put in place and refresher courses and one thing and another, that's a load of nonsense.
So, Charles, how do we, going with what you're saying then, how do we promote patience and good manners on the roads then? What do we do? You don't think it's education? Is it enforcement? Is it, I don't know, how do we get...
That's enforcement. Enforcement's a big problem. There is nobody enforcing it. They put all these laws in place, but there's nobody on to enforce it. You got the dual carriage rate, Craig, at 160 kilometres an hour, right? That man gets the same touch if I go up at 110. And who's the more dangerous?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's 100 kilometres road. Now they're chatting to reducing these kilometres back. I drive a lorry every day, and I will say, I have no punch. I never got punched my license yet since I come in. Thank God.
Yeah, good man.
And I never had no bad accidents with my insurance or anything like that. They're not script here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's the education of people's attitude on the road.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem.
I mean, if you're going...
And there's the thing
should it be the case then, so that if you're going 20% above the speed limit, that you should face a 2-month disqualification or something? I mean, if you're doing... So if you're doing 120 on the dual carriageway there into Letterkenny, I mean, you're not going to be doing that by mistake. Should there be a 2-month driving ban? I mean, no one would excessively speed if you were put off the road for a month, even a month actually. But it would have to be, it would have to be someone who clearly is out there driving dangerous, heavily above the speed limit. People will drift above the speed limit and what have you. But why don't we do that? 20% over any speed limit, 1 month driving ban.
something to get this to get it into people's heads. There was a time there, the police and the guards and all was out along the roads there for a lot of months there, and there seemed to be less people being killed. But the guards has disappeared. I never have come across a checkpoint, and I don't even know the last time I come across a checkpoint. The guards is not on the road. They need the manpower to put whatever's in place that needs to be put in place. You understand what I'm saying? And
I hear you.
The lorry man sees it every day, and there's only one man being policed on the road. I'm not being honest on myself, but the RSA is out to police the lorry man every day. And a man could pass by and him flying, and there's not a dodge but him.
Yeah, and of course, then you've got your tachograph. You have to do your courses more frequently. I mean, obviously, listen, you're driving something with 18 odd wheels, and it weighs an absolute ton. But you know, as you say, when you look at the amount of collisions involving professional drivers, they're minute compared to the collisions as a total. I do understand where you're coming from, that you're very, very heavily scrutinised.
Aye. I know what you're saying. That they have to be policed too. But there's a place there now. If you come from Manor Roundabout to Lufford,
yeah,
there used to be 2 or 3 places along that road there you could have pulled in and let traffic behind you past, or a tractor or whatever. Them's all built up now.
Yeah.
The council is doing away with all them spaces. And they used to be made for the tractors.
Yeah.
And so they've all built. There's another big problem too, Greg. There was an accident there, one day, and we were diverted. I had to go to Falcara on the lorry, and was diverted by Church Hill. And now I'm down that Church Hill Road, down out to the Muckish Road. And it's a disgrace. The hedges are grown over. You have to drive in the middle of the road.
No, that's true. I noticed an
But
awful lot of that.
An awful lot of that, and it's not policed. All these laws is there. And I know myself, maybe I'll be caught for speeding now, the more and more than myself, but no, know what I'm saying? But I call myself a careful driver, and I avoid accidents. I see accidents happen, and I stand the brakes. And no longer than this morning, a boy passed us with 3 lorries and a tractor, and he passed the whole thing, and they come into a corner. So there's something wrong with that man, like. There's something wrong with that person.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
That would do that.
You don't know what's in front of a lorry either when you go to overtake.
You don't know what's in front of a lorry either.
People
That's right.
time it looking at the trailer and the tractor, but at the end of the day, you don't know what's in front of it. It could be another 2 cars, and next thing you're stuck outside. Yeah, go on.
See the RSA, whenever they come out with these rules and regulations, do they do a survey on like a man that's on the road every day, or women or girls or whatever the story is may be like? You know what I mean? Do they go around like a bus, Aaron and lorries and things like that, and ask them what do they think?
I think RSA just chuck money at stuff, Charles. I think they just throw money at stuff. They've just hired a PR company, if you don't mind, to do their public relations. They just seem to chuck money at things. Like we heard earlier on from the Driving Instructors Association, they won't engage with them. So they won't engage with the people that are charged with teaching people to drive. There's something up. Charles, listen, safe journey. Thank you very much for your time.
I'm going to say this one wee thing before I go
ahead,
here.
Charles, yeah.
Whenever my eldest brother was 9 years of age, he learned my mother to drive.
Right.
Could you imagine like that happening today?
No, I don't think so.
He learned my mother to drive, and he was 9 years of age, and he learned my mother to drive.
Yeah.
Now, she wasn't a very good driver, but she was a very careful driver.
Yeah. What do you mean? She wasn't a very good driver, but she was very careful.
Very careful driver. I never knew bad actions other like.
All right, okay.
She was able to go from A to B, like.
That's it. All right, Charles, lovely to talk to you. I enjoy having you
Good
on.
man.
Thank you. Take care. Charles there, lorry driver. What do you think? 086 60 25,000. Very busy today. Thank you. Lots of you commenting across our social media as well. Let's see. Right, so we've had quite a lot of reaction to a halftime, actually. No, that break's not due for a while. So we'll go to this. We were talking earlier on about the opening ceremony of the Paris 2024 Olympics. A lot of people were upset that it appeared to be, and others will contest it wasn't the case, it would appear to be that there was a mockery of the Last Supper, that Christianity was in the firing lines. Now, if the majority of people interpret it that way, well, then that's the way it is. So some of you have been commenting on our socials as well. Margaret, if the LGBTQ plus people want respect, then they also need to respect other faiths and religions and beliefs. As Owen said above, Last time France made an art statement, people died because of it. There's no equality if you take a swipe at people's belief. It was nothing to do with sport. It's fine to make a mockery of Christianity, says Patrick, but try it with other religions, such as Islam. Chris said it wasn't the Last Supper, which is housed in Italy, not France. It was the feast of Dionysus, Greek god of festivity and feasting and ritual and theatre. The Olympics are from Greek culture and tradition. French culture is deeply rooted in feasting and festivity and performing arts. Well articulated, Chris, but people are seeing it a different way. Keith said it's a storm in a teacup, a lot of sheeple jumping on a non-existent bandwagon. It was not a mockery of the Last Supper. However, much the hard right tried to convince people it was. People need to start thinking for themselves again and not just believing everything they see on social media. Keith, again, I do agree with you. You can have collective outrage, maybe without actually looking at the source material yourself, so I take your point there. Aaron said it was nothing to do with the Last Supper. That was a photo that circulated on right-wing groups, and like anything instantly shareable has become popular. There are many posts explaining what the ceremony was actually about and representing, but obviously it's easier to share and be outraged than to actually research it. Yeah, again, Aaron, a good point. Bernie, I decided not to watch the Olympics, the same as the Eurovision. Bambi, it would make more sense for people to be outraged about the convicted child rapist that's allowed to compete rather than this nonsense that had nothing to do with the Last Supper. Andrea, it's a runway, not a table. The green man represented the god of Bacchus, a god of fun and revelry. It's nothing to do with Christianity. Calm your tights, I think is what she meant there. There's a huge backlash, says Mary. Yes, it's mockery of Christianity, irrespective of they spin it, or how they spin it, sorry. Owen, when you've made art the last time people died for it in France, get a grip. Sadie, it's more of a reflection on mental health issues. We've a lot of changes to make to restore health. Des, one day we will pay for the actions unless they repent. The day of judgment is coming soon. Moore said it's horrible art. And Voir says, non pas de controverse pour moi. I don't know what that means. And I don't even know if I pronounced it correctly. Right. Discounted vouchers from government actually means the people are paying for it. Remember, the government does have the money. They just decide how to spend it. I know, I get you. I'm struggling here to try and come up with something that's going to end this awful situation on our roads. But I take your point and I appreciate it greatly. My daughter had a family ticket booked for the Sleeve League boat trip yesterday. She allowed an hour and a half to get to Killybegs from Castlefin. When she got through Ballybofey, she found traffic to McCrory's Bray backed up to the roadside bar. It took 45 minutes to get through the Greenway works in the Gap. There was no roadworks going on, so there was no need for any traffic lights. She ended up being late for the boat trip and had to return home. Why would any tourist visit Donegal with the way we are managing flow? I probably wouldn't have gone that way to Killybegs, to be honest with you. I'd have headed out towards Glenties and cut across, but that's by the by. All right, back shortly.
The Highland Radio Outside broadcast team are on the road once again. Tune in this Wednesday at 2:30 for the Jive Time show with David James, and on Friday morning for Greg Hughes and the 9 till noon show, with both shows live from the heart of the Mary from Dunlo International Arts Festival to celebrate their fun-filled programme of events. Check out the full lineup on maryfromdunlo.ie. Brought to you in association with Cavanagh SuperValue Dunlo.
Usually a radio ad is recorded in a studio. I'm phoning this one in from a bungee jump. I couldn't bring my iPhone, so I'm calling from my Apple Watch because only Vodafone's one number keeps my Apple Watch connected without my iPhone nearby. So I've got a connection I can always rely on everywhere. Okay, here goes. Woohoo! Feel that freedom! Only with Vodafone one number!
Compatible powered on smartphone and smartwatch required. Eligibility, limitations and terms apply. See vodafone.ie/terms.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenney's. Support local at McElhenney's. With 53 years experience in fashion, beauty and home, we're here for you. Plus, enjoy M-Card rewards when you shop in-store at McElhenney's Ballybofey.
Okay, the weather forecast, it is going to be cloudy with some mist and drizzle. Temperatures around about 16 to 18 degrees. Now, Michael Gallagher joins us on the programme, as he has many times over the years. Michael, thank you so much for your time, as always.
Hello, good morning, Greg.
And for listeners that may not be aware, you very sadly lost your son, Aidan, in the Omagh bomb, and you're commenting on the Omagh bomb inquiry, and I suppose what what it must deliver, what it must uncover.
Yes, I mean, this is what we're dealing with here. Is this was the largest security and intelligence failure in the history of this state, and we feel, that it's hugely important that we learn what went wrong, and of course what was done right too. And an important part of the inquiry will be that the lessons learned be passed on to others, so that if they find themselves in a similar situation, that they can manage it better. But yeah, fundamentally, it's about what went so badly wrong that 31 people lost their lives and 250 were injured.
I'm not conflating two issues, Michael, and I hope it doesn't come across as insensitive. It wouldn't be my intention. But, when you see the recent attempted assassination of Donald Trump in America, instantly inquiries kicked in, scrutiny kicked in, public hearings kicked in the houses of power, in an effort to get to the truth, to find out what happened, to find where there might have been failures, to find out how this can be avoided again. And that's exactly what should happen in a situation like that. And yet here, it's strange, isn't it? This incredible loss of life, this awful, awful event. And it's a battle. It's a battle to try and find out what went wrong. What can we avoid into the future? And maybe it's a clumsy comparison, Michael, but it's just, I couldn't help but notice that just the difference in how we seem to do things here.
No, you're absolutely right, Greg. We had the Manchester Arena inquiry. The Manchester Arena inquiry is finished now. It happened 4 years after the event. I'm not criticising it. It was absolutely right that it happened, and I know many of the victims, because, when you're in this situation, you do mix with other people. And I took the government to court in 2013, and it took me 10 years to do judicial review, which must have made British legal history. And even when it was over, there was delay after delay. Hugely frustrating and difficult. But, I always have to try and look at things on the positive side. And the intervening years, the 26 years almost since the bomb happened, there's been a lot more information came to light. What we do hope is that those people that are asked to come to the inquiry as witnesses will cooperate openly and transparently and assist the inquiry in the important work that it's doing.
In January, if I'm not mistaken, there's an opportunity for commemorative and personal statements, Michael. Will you be engaging with that, with your son Aidan, obviously the focus of that? And if you are, how does that feel, Michael? How significant is it? How difficult is it? Or what's the emotions?
Well, this is an opportunity for the families, particularly who were bereaved, to come and talk and give some background about the person that they have lost, and also the difficulties that they have faced over the past 26 years. I think it's hugely important. It's really, if you like, setting the scene why it is important to have an inquiry. And I would imagine almost all the families, there's many different ways you can do it. You can make a video, you can make a personal presentation. The inquiry have been very innovative in how they have allowed people, because not everybody could come forward and just talk.
And do you know what I think's important, Michael?
About the pain.
Yeah, I think what's important too in the media coverage of this, or just the general conversation, there's that line, isn't there? 29 people, including a woman pregnant with twins. It's almost cut and paste. And that's not me calling out the media, by the way. I'm not saying that. No. But this is the 29 people, including a woman pregnant with twins. We'll get to hear about them. We'll get to know their names. We'll get them. They no longer become a line of statistics. They become the people, the family members, the loved ones that they were in that moment and continue to be when they were taken away from families.
That's right. You're quite right, because people, no matter what atrocity it is, people always talk about the statistics. Well, this is putting a human face to the statistics, and it's hugely important.
Who shapes this? Or, you're calling for, you've outlined what you're calling for, right? That
Yes.
It must uncover uncomfortable truths. Who guides that? Do we have to trust in other words, are the systems in place that they might uncover uncomfortable truths, or at this point are the terms of reference still up for discussion, or what's the situation, Michael? Is that more of a hope of yours than a call? Really, I suppose the question is.
Well, the way it works is the Lord Turnbull is the chairman of the inquiry, and he has a very experienced team. The team have been involved in quite a few other inquiries, including the Grenville fire in London and also the Manchester Arena bombing, which we just talked about. They're coming with a wealth of experience, but they've also said this is basically looking at, could the Omagh bomb have been prevented?
Yeah.
And over the past 25 years, from the knowledge that I've got, I've always said it was a preventable atrocity. And that's the area that's the area we won on the judicial review, and the judgment was given. So we're looking at those issues from late 97 up to the 15th of August. Could that have been prevented? That's the question, and that's the subject. But to answer your question, the inquiry have actually left it is quite loose on that. The wording is, or any other relevant information, and we have the door is open for any of those 4 legal teams, and for any of those legal teams to take issues to the inquiry. Right. The door is always open. It's not an open and shut case where that's all we can talk about, and the time is up now. So, yeah, I have faith in the inquiry team, and I would encourage, as I said earlier, those that are invited to come and assist them in their work.
Okay, it's important. It's going to be protracted. It's going to be difficult and require an awful lot of personal strength for lots of people. Michael, I hope it achieves as much as it can for you, and that you get all the strength you need to get through what there's inevitably going to be particularly difficult times on top of what you're already dealing with. So we wish you the best with it, Michael.
Thank you for that, Greg, and thanks to your listeners for their support and prayers.
Okay, Michael, take care of yourself. Michael Gallagher there, who very sadly lost his son Aidan. He was one of those people who died in that County Tyrone town on August the 15th of 1998. And anyone of a certain age will remember just when that information started to come through. It was unbelievable. Okay, let's get to some callers here. First, people who need to learn manners on the road are tractor drivers. Totally obnoxious, most of them. I find them pretty fair, but that's my experience. That's a queer, sensible man, 100% right. That's in relation to Charlie, the lorry driver. That lorry man's 100% correct. Heavier fines is the answer. In Australia, it's $500 for no seatbelt. There'll be no one driving without a seatbelt then. Again, yeah, I mean, would you risk it? I was on the road and a lorry was in front of me doing 40 kilometres per hour. He was sitting over the white line eating Pringles. I tried to pass him as there was a gap for me to go. I had to beep at him to let me past. He wasn't watching at all. Lorry drivers can be careless too. They say once you pop, you can't stop. So I wouldn't be going at Pringles while I'm driving. If there's a checkpoint or speed van, other cars flash you to let you know. They should leave it and let you go past and get caught. We all need to have manners on the road. It's an interesting one, because I was speaking to someone who's pretty high up in the traffic corps about that. And they're put there in dangerous areas to slow people down, not necessarily to catch people. So if the function is to slow people down, then is flashing doing that job? I don't know. I don't know what the thinking is now. Any Gardaí can let us know. A caller drove from Carragart to Creasla, and a driver in his 50s driving a DL Reg car drove the whole road into Creasla on the wrong side of the road. Oh, So scary. Thank God there was nothing coming, so it's not always young drivers. Yeah, and listen, a lot of what we've talked about today actually isn't about young drivers. Firstly, I suppose it's about giving them the best start on the road, but a lot of stuff we've been talking about fines and stuff, that's for all drivers. Having to do, some proposals having to do your your test every 10 years, that's for all drivers as well. So I get where you're coming from, but this isn't a jumping on the bandwagon of criticising young drivers programme. Is driving that hard? I don't think so. I've been driving all my life. It's just when people choose not to take due care and attention as for bringing down the speed limit, we be crawling. Can you tell me how many CEO has the the RSA had since it was founded, and what package they got when they left? Thanks, Greg. There's a lot in that. I can't. The information's out there. Would someone please tell Greg that no amount of instruction or education will solve the bad driving problem among young drivers? There's a culture of antisocial behaviour among an increasing number of young people, especially among young men. Illegally modified cars. None of these have an NCT. Blacked out windows, including the windscreen, lowered suspension, modified exhausts, mapped ECU. We need enforcement and prosecutions. The listener is of the view. Have some obligatory lessons before the first test. Then, when someone fails, they bring their results card to their new set of obligatory lessons before the second test is one proposal. Let me see. Good morning, Greg. Manners on the roads is an issue. Drivers hugging the centre of the road, making others taking over dangerous and causing long tailback, says the listener. Didn't get the whole conversation, but seriously, people are going to be regulated out of existence every 10 years. A 2-hour test, for God's sake, ridiculous. If you've passed your test, you've passed it, says that listener. These are all conversations and proposals just in case you believe that it's about to happen. Greg, here we go again. That man only looking for more money. It's all about money. Show me the money, 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 money. That's in relation to the calls from the Driving Testers Association. Another just more money for driving instructors. I was waiting on these because it does seem like a mandate for them. That's okay every 10 years as long as it's free. That's to resit your driving test. All the driving lessons in the world won't change the mindset of human beings. Attitude has much to do with road traffic collisions. I appreciate that. A caller from Port Salon says, my son has been driving a tractor on our farm since he was about 10. Is it fair that these people have to do the same amount of driving lessons? I mean, listen, there are some transferable skills, but driving on a farm and driving out in the road and knowing all the rules and regulations maybe are two different things, right? Kevin from Dunlow, who's a regular contributor for That's Entertainment, is sticking his oar in on football. Hi, Greg and Brendan. I hear Dublin and Kerry will soon selling their tickets back as they were the first to buy them when on sale in June for the final. And I believe the Kerry fans don't travel well as they mingle in dingle, a case of dubs in pubs. But good to have a unique pairing this year, and from the screenshot shows the head-to-head, and more unique to have the president from Armagh and son and nephew in the team too. Speaking of commentary, while I was watching BBC, hosted by Galway girl Oisín, RTE was actually more passionate. But thanks for Mona update, as I heard later that her swim was next Saturday. Who no doubt Ballyshannon Marlins swimming pool will be cheering on their past pupil. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks all of you for listening. Have a wonderful Monday. Back tomorrow morning at 9. John Breslin's next.
Buying or moving home can be a strange mixture of excitement and stress. So